All right, let's see. All right, well, whoever's out there, we will be discussing Film Score Monthly tonight. And if you missed the beginning, of course, this will be archived. So I'm just doing this as a off-the-cuff way of documenting my interest in this company and also magazine. So if you jump in later, it's fine. I'll just there's a lot to go through, so there will be more things. All right, so let's see. So beginning off, Film Score Monthly was a magazine that became a record label. And right here, just as a refresher, it started in 1990, started by a guy named Lucas Kendall. And I was sort of made aware of Film Score Monthly later, nearer to the end of the CDs than the beginning. It wasn't really before my time. It was more before my own awareness of it. So it was a magazine, then a CD label, and then the website right here. It's hard to believe that in 1990, soundtracks to the general public meant only popular song compilations such as Top Gun and Footloose. Today, thanks in part to efforts like Film Score Monthly, there exists a broader understanding and appreciation of the original dramatic underscoring composed for motion pictures, television, and new media such as video games, and of the talented composers who create it. So, as you can see, they're still doing an online magazine, but they're still writing about film scores. And they had the magazine was a physical magazine until it looks like 2005. But I'm not sure about that. I'll find out later because we'll get into why I'm doing this in a minute. But so yeah, here they're still doing the polls that they've always been doing. Not really interesting. So there used to be the website used to be much different. Last year they had a Kickstarter, which was basically to revamp the website and then to also produce a book as like a sort of 30th anniversary. Actually, not even 30th anniversary, I guess. But they did that. All of that was reached. They did it. And I have mixed feelings about the new website. It does have pretty much everything that the original did. It just looks sleeker, and it doesn't have the old charm of kind of like a old web 2.0, whatever you would call it, look. But basically what I'm doing is I'm going through all of the titles that they released on CD, because initially, and I'm going to show right here, this was basically when they started going from just a magazine to also a CD label. So this was the first CD that they ever released, which is John Barry's Deadfall. And for it's kind of a big deal that something like this was coming about from a magazine, because the film score sphere was so niche. And as I was reading in that short blurb in the introduction, was that, yeah, people just didn't really think much of soundtracks. And it was only until labels like Varese Sarabande and Intrada and then Film Score Monthly, that a lot of these CD labels got pushed out into the not really mainstream, but just got a wider market. And the thing is, like, composers like Jerry Goldsmith and Elmer Bernstein and these other people would work with the labels. Like Varese Sarabande did a whole bunch of re-recordings of Jerry Goldsmith scores with Jerry Goldsmith conducting, and then you had releases of some of these CDs that were of scores that would just never even got an album back in the day when they'd come out, because a lot of films do get soundtrack albums, which are usually not all of the music, and so, or they're re-recordings. And when they put out, in the 90s, you had people like Nick Redman, like 20th Century Fox or some other places going into the vaults and just getting tapes transferred and like restored, whatnot, so that they could have a record of these things, and they weren't just they weren't going to fall apart, because some of them were starting to deteriorate, especially at 20th Century Fox. If you listen to some of the scores, and I'll mention this as we go through, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but so right now what we have is Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 was also one of their first ones. I have found that one, and that's the thing too. These are not the easiest to find anymore in the wild, and these were only available through order, through the magazine or through the website. So these weren't just like stocked in a store. A bigger label like Varese Sarabande did have stuff, and I found their scores for like Planet of the Apes and First Blood like in Barnes and Noble. So that it's but these were very specific, and these I think were much more tailored to the film score like fan, or just somebody who really wanted all the music, and they wanted it broken down as to like what the condition the elements were in, how they were found. And the thing about it is, and I'll get to it. It's when we come to the first FSM CD that I got, what a kind of revelation it was, the quality of the packaging and everything when I first got it, as compared to like other CDs that I was used to. So this was one of the first, basically the first official Film Score Monthly CD, because these other two ones were released under something called Retrograde Records, which kind of worked in tandem with Film Score Monthly as it went on. And there's many facets to this history, so I'm not going to get everything right. And there's people within the Film Score Monthly community and the soundtrack community who know way more about it, but they just aren't my age. A lot of them are Gen X or Boomer age, and they just they have written blogs, they have podcasts and stuff, but for me, I just feel like I like this information when it's disseminated through a video or just something long form. So Stagecoach and The Loner by Jerry Goldsmith. I remember seeing Stagecoach actually on TV. The opening scene is like really violent. It's like this Indians attacking all these people, and I remember that, but I don't remember the score too much. But I'll kind of skip over the ones that I'm less familiar with. But the important thing to note is that they will mention in here. So CD represents the totality of his contribution. First ever CD release. So they're really like telling you this. This is where it came from. And even mentions previous releases. The existing commercial album is a re-recording, not conducted by the composer, and was one of the all-time worst CD reissues. So the stereo sound is much superior, and the performance chronologically sequenced, which is very important, especially when you're kind of getting through the movie, through the music. So, and then you've got the Poseidon Adventure, and a lot of the releases that they were going for were releases that were like available to them because of the licensing, and also stuff that a lot of the people who were the soundtrack collectors were really into, which is a lot of genre films. And that's where I came from too. When I got into film scores, it was, one of the first ones that I noticed was the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and then that was, I think, one of the first film score CDs that I got. And so what's interesting is, is the note, and then they had stuff like Off the Beaten Path, like this, Mad Monster Party by Percepto Records. Now these pages that I'm showing you, these came from these files on the website of the back issues. So these weren't scans; these were the actual files for the pages that Joe Sikoriak, I think Joe Sikoriak had put together. He was the designer for the magazine and also the Film Score Monthly CDs. And so sometimes the text will be a little out of whack, sometimes the pictures will be, but so Mad Monster Party is it's an interesting Rankin Bass film. It's a theatrical, I think it was a theatrical film, but as you can see, the kerning is all crazy here. But this was really, the score was really good. I wasn't able to get this CD in time because that's when I started learning about, these things go out of print and then you just never see them again. And they're definitely not going to, a lot of them haven't gotten a re-release since. And that's kind of the reason I want to go through all of them and talk about them, because people just kind of forget that these releases exist. Sometimes people forget even the movies themselves exist. If it weren't for these CD releases, this movie, I've got mixed feelings about it. It was like a little awkward, not great. I was hoping it was going to be better because I liked the style, the mood of it. And Percepto Records, they've released some other stuff in the similar vein. Like they did a bunch of like the Don Knotts movies and like Ghost of Mr. Chicken and stuff. But moving along here though, this is one that I was definitely, so you can see the title is like over too far. So, and then right here you could get it autographed by Leonard Rosenman if you had ordered concurrently with the release. But yeah, Fantastic Voyage, that's one of my favorite SF films, and this is also, would have been exciting at the time, even because it says it was never previously available in any form. The original Fantastic Voyage score has been completely remixed in stereo from the original 35mm magnetic film elements, and the album opens with a distinctive suite of sound effects from the 20th Century Fox library, which there wasn't actual like music for the main titles. It was just a bunch of sound effects edited together in this very kinetic montage. And the sound effects are stuff that you would hear all the time on Lost in Space, and which is, I really got to do something or write something or do a video about the kind of sci-fi universe of 20th Century Fox in the 60s that was kind of partially held together by Irwin Allen and a lot of the production design of Bill Creeber and others. But yeah, it was this, when I found out that they had released this, I was pretty excited because it's also like, it's not a score that's like super comfortable because it uses a lot of very, I don't want to say atonal, but it's like, serialist stuff. Leonard Rosenman, he was a student of Schoenberg, and he employed that a lot, as we'll learn later. And then you've got stuff like The Return of Dracula, The Cabinet of Caligari. These are these, horror films, genre films that nobody really talks about anymore, but the scores are putting this as a 2 CD set, so you have over 2 hours of music. And at the time, for people who probably saw this stuff on cable or maybe in the video store at the time, I don't know, or even more so, like in the theater growing up. That's when these releases were hitting. These people, were in their like 30s or 40s or 20s, but a lot of this stuff, would just never got a fair shake in like on CD or anything before. So this is another really good Jerry Goldsmith score, 100 Rifles. I haven't seen the movie. A lot of these I haven't seen the movie, and I think that sometimes I've been curious enough to see the movie, but a lot of times one reason I've always gotten like soundtracks and been obsessed with the music is because they are very inspirational. They just give me ideas. They're just very invigorating in that manner. And I'll listen to film scores or classical music while I'm writing, while I'm drawing, while I'm just walking, doing things where ideas will come to me. So now it's here's an interesting detail. It says this release presents the score not once but twice. First in stereo with all but 3 cues, which were lost, newly remixed at 20th Fox, and then in mono, complete with the original mix made for the film. This sounds silly, but if it was totally stupid, we wouldn't be doing it. Each mix has its pros and cons. Stereo mix is obviously stereo, but the mono mix contains nuances and sweeteners, not to mention the 3 lost cues, which are no longer available. Rather than switch back and forth between the sources, we have decided to give all of the mixes to you to decide which you prefer. It's a sort of 200 Rifles, which is just, I think that's just really cool that they would do stuff like that back then. And I know that there was a later CD release of 100 Rifles. I don't know if they had found more stereo elements or they had found some other way, because as technology has improved, they have cleaned up a lot of these older releases, older scores that have been released first as Film Score Monthly. And I'll mention those as we go along. So now we have Patton and The Flight of the Phoenix. And I've seen Flight of the Phoenix once. Patton I'm very familiar with, and everybody knows that score, the March and the Jerry Goldsmith stuff. But it's, Patton had gotten a pretty, I think, common, you can find it in used stores pretty common. It's the LP has the George C. Scott speech at the beginning of it. This doesn't have that, but it does have so it says right here the previous LP and CD releases have all been re-recordings. So this release presents Goldsmith's original score as recorded for the film, with the original echo-plexed trumpets fully intact. And echo-plexing is when basically it's played out and then it's looped, so it creates this echo. There's a machine that does that. I forget exactly. Goldsmith used it quite a bit. This and Planet of the Apes he used it on, and it was only until like a few years ago that the echo-plexing on Planet of the Apes was actually properly instated onto a release. And if this is, I am just going full, like all obsessive detail about this stuff. And yeah, as you can see, the resolution on these pages is like not great, but and you'll notice that some of these ads are in black and white, some are in color. It's because the color ones, the magazine itself, the interior pages were black and white, and the color was for the cover. So you would have an ad for the latest CD on the interior of maybe the back of the cover too. But they would have a Golden Age film score release and a Silver Age film score release in each month. So the Prince Valiant, I don't know if this was based on the Hal Foster. Where did Hal Foster did that? The comic strip. It features, let's see, Charles Gerhardt, to whom this album is dedicated, recorded a suite for Prince Valiant. So Charles Gerhardt, who did a bunch of suites of film score music in the 70s, and I'm almost positive that George Lucas had a bunch of those albums because the different collection of tracks, of cues and suites that Charles Gerhard re-recorded kind of formed some of the temp music for Star Wars initially, especially like the some of the stuff in the Bernard Herrmann one or the Korngold one. But yeah, so I haven't so interestingly, with older scores too, you're gonna get like a lot more complicated preservation stuff going on. So fortunately, almost all of the score has survived in excellent condition, particularly the exciting and action-filled material for the movie's third act, when Valiant is captured and must escape to fight his enemies. Sadly, certain incidental fanfares have been lost, and an 8-minute swath of music was afflicted with noticeable mag wow. So on the magnetic tape, there's sort of fluctuation in like the pitch and whatnot, and this has been included at the end of the disc as a bonus track, so you can listen to it, but it's damaged, so they at least put it in there with that caveat, which I really appreciate that that they did that. And even now, like today, that could probably be fixed, and stuff like that has been fixed in other releases. I just don't know if if this will ever be re-released. You know, I've never come across it, because a lot of my Film Score Monthly CDs have come from either ordering them from Screen Archives Entertainment, which is I'll get to that. It's a amazing website that, you know, just is just like a marketplace for all of your niche soundtrack labels. And then the Film Score Monthly stuff was there, but the Princeton Record Exchange, not so much anymore, but when I first started going there some years ago, they would get in a lot of Film Score Monthly and other like Entrada, La La Land stuff. Like they would get a lot of things, so I was able to kind of fill out some of these out of print ones or whatnot. So you have Monty Walsh by John Barry, which I haven't seen the movie. What I've heard of the score, it's really good. But it's the character study of aging cowboys Lee Marvin and Jack Palance who face the end of their way of life in the 1880s. And so, and you know, they're speaking to like the film score fans in, you know, in their readership. You know, they're selling it on that aspect. So they says, two major set pieces: a beautiful midnight cowboy meets American folk theme for a poignant exchange between Monty and Chet, and a 007 style climax complete with minor brass chords and clanging marimbas. So that, you know, they know who they're talking to. They know who to appeal to with these. I've seen a little bit of this movie. I have this CD, and it's great. And there's some interesting aspect. There's an interesting aspect to this release. And I don't know. It's not in the. I think it's in the liner notes. Yeah. So basically, it's a release of all the surviving tracks from Prince of Foxes and embracing stereophonic sound. And the interesting thing is, though, this score was recorded in mono, but it was recorded with two separate optical tracks. I think optical track. Yeah, it was recorded with two separate ones that were then flattened together, but they had them separate. So basically, they employed something called it fat mono, where it's like twice the mono, but that's how they were able to get a stereo score out of, you know, this mono score, which, you know, in the film it's compressed into mono audio. But that's why these really interesting, weird things like this happen in these the golden age scores, because there's all these different kinds of like, you got acetates, you got optical tracks, then you're, you know, later in the 50s, and, you know, everything's magnetic tape, and yeah, it's fascinating. So you have the Comancheros with the borked up kerning, and then so you got, you know, Bernstein himself re-recorded excerpts of the Comancheros on a Varese Sarabande album. The Films of John Wayne Volume 1. This new CD features the original soundtrack, never before released, as recorded for the film at 20th Century Fox. It must have, like, if, every film is somebody's favorite film. I think Jay Ballman said that one time. And every soundtrack is somebody's favorite soundtrack, by that measure. And I think, it must have been great, in the days where the internet is very much lurking, I would say, in the background. But, you have no way of knowing what the state of these soundtracks are in. You don't even really expect them to come out. And then if this is like your favorite score of all time, then it comes out and then it's just like, wow, you're just over the moon. And that's how I felt about a lot of these. Okay, so this one I got, I made the size a little too big. Let me see about that. Yeah, so All About Eve is a really good movie. I think that there is... Yeah, and again, another unreleased score that got perfectly, ignored. Got a perfectly good release, though. It's interesting, too, I don't think about it having a really good score, even though the film is very much a character kind of piece. But Alfred Newman, you're going to see him a lot. He's really fantastic. All right, and then Rio Conchos, which is a great... Hang on a second, let me check on something just to make sure. Everything's working squarely. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we're good. Anyway, so yeah, Rio Conchos is a Western. I haven't seen the Western. I've listened to the score many times, though. It's very good. So Goldsmith's psychological approach to action extends to some vicious Stravinsky-like rhythmic music associated with the Richard Boone character and his violent hatred of the Apache, as well as an alternatingly exciting and brooding fanfare for the Native Americans, which he would later use that again in a brief TV show that Goldsmith scored in the 70s, for Prudence and the Chief, I think it was called. But, so Rio Conchos, a hard-bitten action story that starred Richard Boone, Stuart Whitman, and Tony Franciosa. Rio Conchos was in many ways a reworking of 1961's The Comancheros, but it lacked the buoyant presence of John Wayne and told a far darker and more nihilistic tale of social outcasts thrown together on a mission to find a hidden community of Apache gun. And so the never before released, again, Film Score Monthly was really pioneering a lot of these neglected scores. As recorded for the film at 20th Century Fox in 1964, the existing release of Rio Conchos is a re-recording conducted by the composer for Entrada Records in 1988. So yeah, that's, and that a lot of people love that album. They re-released that particular re-recording recently too. And I've heard some of it. It's really good, but I also love the original. So this recording is complete in chronological order and an excellent mono sound with 11 cues not included on the Entrada CD, including a great deal of moody flamenco bass material for Tony Franciosa's character and a lengthy bravura action cue written almost exclusively for percussion. And then, but I think there were some technical or at least inherent in the source problems with it. So they released the score at least 2 other times on other labels after this, though. So it's not, this one hasn't been left by the wayside. And they've done up the sound and it's been probably much better than this release. So the Flim Flam Man with sort of George C. Scott playing a con man, and it's kind of in this it says right here, you've got Flim Flam Man tells the story of a veteran Southern con man played by the brilliant George C. Scott and his escapades with a young protege, played by Michael Sarrazin. The score demonstrates Goldsmith's brilliance in capturing a wide variety of emotions, comedy, Americana, personal drama, with unifying melodic material. The score evokes slapstick chases, the wide-open feeling of the land, and the sincerity of the characters' relationships as patches of the same homemade quilt. And yeah, the Goldsmith stuff, it's his score is really fun. It's really it has a lot of playfulness with like the banjo, that sort of country feel to it. And this score was released again recently as part of the Goldsmith at Fox series that La La Land Records did. I guess they haven't done any more installments for that. I think they kind of went through it, but the Flim Flam Man uses a variety of instruments from Goldsmith's Western canon for its color: harmonica, accordion, banjos, guitar, and percussion, plus a tack piano, which was created by recording a piano at slower speeds and manipulating the tape to speed it up. This score was previously available only in excerpts on the limited promotional CD Tribute to Jerry Goldsmith. This FSM release presents the complete score in stereo with all the instrumentation and sweeteners intact. And there's another Goldsmith. I mean, they were going for the Goldsmith in this period. And Take a Hard Ride is just, I haven't seen it, but it does sound intriguing. So, it is a blaxploitation epic, a buddy movie, kung fu thriller, a spaghetti western to boot. It's got Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Lee Van Cleef. And 1971 international middleweight karate champion Jim Kelly playing a character who dresses, acts, and best of all kicks like Tom Laughlin's Billy Jack. So, but Goldsmith's score has some of these very interesting sort of instrumentation. There's let's see if it comments on it. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, this is a good one. I got on a later release. So La La Land Records later put out another release of this one. Now, they didn't, if I was going to pick a quintessential Film Score Monthly release, it would be this one right here, The Omega Man. Now, like, through my years of growing up pursuing these, like, science fiction genre films and a lot of that stuff, I would come across these movies and see them in multiple times. And the Omega Man, I still like it. I think it grows on me each time, and I think it's a very, it's a movie with a lot of heart. It's I would say some of it's kind of corny, but I love it, and the score is fantastic. But for some reason, Film Score Monthly didn't do a full page ad for it. They just kind of dropped this right in. I haven't been able to find if they did a full page ad in any of the other issues. I'll have to look for it again, but basically, the Omega Man, which was another adaptation of I Am Legend, if you don't know. It's basically the action-adventure is made memorable by Ron Grainer's beautiful pop-flavored score, which mixes Baroque, jazz, avant-garde, and the dramatic orchestral styles into a seamless whole. From its gorgeously elegiac main theme to the distinctive melodies for Neville and the family, the Omega Man earns its reputation as one of the most unforgettable genre scores of the 70s. And then the disc features stunning stereo sound, unused cues, specially arranged source music, and a rejected alternate end title. Now, what's interesting about this release is that in the score, there are these electronic organ parts for the orchestra, and those were on a separate overlay, separate, basically tape element. And at the time of this release, they couldn't find them. Then later on, they put out a new edition of this release, and we'll get to that later, but basically Film Score Monthly was they started to put a lot of the bulk of their liner notes online, especially if it was a box set or something, and they had this Omega Man 2.0 Unlimited release, which was basically all these releases so far are limited releases. They're like limited to 3,000 copies, and this edition, they for the 2.0 edition, they found the missing overlays and everything, but they left out one thing on purpose from this CD, which was a little like outtake of Ron Grainer conducting some children who sing like a song at the old McDonald's farm at one point in the movie, and it's just this little like studio moment that they left in there. But this CD is it's pretty quintessential, and it's a beautiful score. And it's fantastic. Go look at it. Like I would say that's when I think of Film Score Monthly, it's stuff like that. Also stuff like this too. So, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. So it's like Planet of the Apes and whatnot had gotten all kinds of score, like all kinds of releases, a few before, but as it says here, for years, Beneath the Planet of the Apes has been available only as a strange concept LP from the time of the film's release. Rosenman was asked to rearrange his score for a smaller orchestra and contemporary elements, including electric guitar and rock percussion. Leavening these stylistic departures were several dialogue sequences from the film, another common practice from the old days of soundtrack albums that persists today. So persists today as in, I don't know when this would be, but around like the late 90s, early 2000s. But so putting dialogue on soundtrack album is an absolutely abhorrent practice. But it says our release debuts the original score as heard in the film in dynamic stereo sound, including every note Rosenman recorded for the movie, electronic music, and sound effects, including the mind control effects of the film's mutants, and the score's hair-raising Mass for the Bomb, which is a pretty bonkers. That movie, my gosh, this movie is so crazy. If you think of big like studio sequels to like blockbuster movies, and then this film comes along and it's just like freakish and violent, and Earth blows up at the end. It's bloody and and it's rated G too, which just shows you how young the rating system was at the time. But I have a fondness for it. Even the score. A lot of people don't like the score. But I like getting in, especially when I'm working on something that's in a sort of similar vein. When I was working on For the Sake of Two, that dark fantasy graphic novel, there was a few times where I was listening to that score. And so now you have Tora 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 by Jerry Goldsmith, and you'll know what that's about. And I think here now they were getting some more high quality stills. And boy, my voice, I hope my voice isn't going before I'm even halfway done this. And I'll kind of skip through the stuff that I'm less familiar with or I don't have. I always love this artwork. This is like fantastic. Although I was like bothered by these stupid like cheating on your wife comedy movies, but like for like this guy, he's like, oh yeah, my ball and chain. And look at her. Oh no, look at her. Like, yeah. And it's like, come on. Undefeated, John Wayne, plus Ombre, David Rose. Again, okay, this one was another big one because I saw this a bunch as a kid. This movie particularly, and I don't have the score on CD. I really want to find it somewhere because it also got a later release. So that means there's kind of twice as much chance to find it. And I love finding things out in the wild. Yeah, I could go and hunt down a used copy online, which I have to in many cases, but there's nothing like perusing a used music store that actually has a good selection and then coming across something like this. And you've got your bat track list and your bonus bat tracks. And authentic Bat music has been hard to come by for fans of the TV series. 2 albums were released by Neil Hefti, the composer of the title music, but these albums had no connection to the music heard on the show. The underscores were composed by bandleader and arranger Nelson Riddle, who created a memorable, rhythmically driven sound for the series. referencing Hefty's familiar title motif for the Batmobile, but mostly creating his own mood with shifting woodwind lines, big band flavored fight music, and distinctive musical stingers for each of the show's supervillains. And let's see, where does it talk about? Okay, let's see. Finally, a straight television run. Nearly 66 minutes of stereophonic bat music and crystal clear monophonic bat sound. So monophonic sound is not a bad thing. It's fine. It's just it can be very like satisfying in some ways. You got From the Terrace, never seen it. I know it's a book. It's a very thick book that a lot of people have not read. Probably will never read again, but The Stripper. Okay, Nick Quarry / Nick Quarry. So this one I picked up. There's a chain of stores. I don't know how many are left in New Jersey, South Jersey, called Tunes, and it's a music and used music store, and they all got in a bunch of Film Score Monthly CDs and a bunch of other Film Score CDs as well. I'll never forget. Every time I see the 3-disc Outer Limits set, I can never afford it at the time, or I just never able to get it. That's one of my white whales. But Film Score Monthly didn't put that out. But they did have this CD, and I love Goldsmith's scores for the Flint movies, which is like 60s spy kind of thriller stuff. Very fun, very light-hearted. And so basically, the main feature of this CD is The Stripper, but they put in as a bonus this. So they say this CD is filled out with a true Goldsmith rarity, Nick Quarry, an unaired 1968 TV show, actually an abbreviated pilot known as a demonstration reel, produced by 20th Century Fox based on the Tony Rome detective film. Goldsmith wrote 11 minutes of music in his R-Man Flint in like Flint style that have never been heard, or for that matter, heard of. His complete score is presented here in clean mono. So, and I don't know if that demonstration reel, that pilot, has ever emerged, but the music is fantastic. It's, groovy, energetic, propulsive. And the score for The Stripper is really, really good too. It's very tender, has a lot of, the thing about Goldsmith, there's so many different colors, textures, and it's all woven together beautifully with the motifs and whatnot. So yeah, that's a great release that I can recommend. And this one, Beneath the 12-Mile Reef by Bernard Herrmann, is fantastic. One of my favorite scores. And again, another first-time release of this score. And it wasn't the last time this was released. It came out again in the Herrmann at Fox box set, and then later on its own subsequent CD. But if you want to know, yeah, it's gorgeous atmospheric evocation of the film's underwater photography with 9 harps, each playing a separate part, grounding the sublimely Herrmann-esque sea soundscapes. Yeah. And then, so, you have Conquest of the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Now, these two scores they're fine, but I don't know, the Tom Scott one I can never get into. I have all the Apes scores now because there was a box set of them released a few years ago. But they were just going ahead and... Oh, hang on a second. Oh, okay. I was going to say, this is from the TV show, but they tacked in the main title from the TV show. Okay, yeah. A rarity for the Apes series. It's yeah. How to Marry a Millionaire. So you've got basically Alfred Newman directing the music for this film, where a lot of the music is using pre-existing songs, just arranging them differently, and then having incidental music by Cyril Mockridge, who did a lot of frothy kind of, but also very... I mean, all these composers, like, a score by them is just like worth 10 scores today, I would think, in terms of composition and arrangement and melody and all of that. I mean, it's the writing for different kinds of movies, but at the same time, the music, the longevity of the music speaks for itself. And I've seen some of this film, and it's funny, but the really great thing about it is the very strong, just musical style. It's just like there's a little like tone poem kind of thing in the beginning called "Street Scene" that Alfred Newman made. It's and he's also appears on screen during it while he's like they're playing this piece that's in the beginning of the movie. That is worth looking up on its own. The Street Scene piece. And also here we have some notes. We remixed and remastered Newman's recording of Street Scene from the original 6-track magnetic film stems for the best possible sound ever. And I don't think this was released again. But as we'll get to here, actually, I'll just check as well, because so I wanted to hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me see, because I want to show if all right, I'll do it later. But on the Film Score Monthly site, there's only like a handful of releases they have left in stock, and some of them are older ones like this. So you have the Towering Inferno, but John Williams, which I still haven't seen this movie. It's shameful. But the now it is interesting. At the time, they'll even put a warning. FSM's 1998 release of the Poseidon Adventure, combined with Williams' score for The Paper Chase and the main title to Conrack, is almost sold out. So less than 500 copies remains. Act now or suffer later on eBay. Well, we're all going to be suffering later. But there was a disaster movie box set with the Poseidon Adventure, or Towering Inferno, and Earthquake that was released recently. Not super recently, but a few years ago. And the score was released on LP at the time of the movie, but it omitted much of the best music. Film Score Monthly's new CD more than doubles the running time, shuffles the LP tracks back into chronological order, and restores the numerous memorable sequences like Let There Be Light, an explosive fanfare for the building's inauguration, and virtually the entire middle of the movie. And the CD is entirely in stereo, remixed from the original 35mm film stems. So... And it says, in recent years, Williams' classic scores to Jaws, A Close Encounters, Superman, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., and the entire Star Wars series have been lovingly restored. Now add the Towering Inferno to that distinguished collection. So yeah, just, they're getting into these other scores besides the ones that everybody else knows. And then it kind of seems like things are still there. Like, you're not going to have, other stuff like this kind of break out into more wide, I guess, like popularity, but that's just how it is. And in some ways, it's kind of nice because the less clamor there is for something, the more accessible it is. But that doesn't really work out sometimes, because then you have the eBay scalpers. I'm gonna just go and say the eBay, like, scalpers, price gougers, like, we need to bring back, like, for people like that we need to bring back stocks, as in the wooden restraints seen in back then in the public square, where they would put thieves and such in them and pelt them with rotten fruit or something. I mean, that honestly is the necessary punishment for a scalper or price gouger, because a lot of times you're selling something at this exorbitant price. It's not an investment. It's like you're probably just like not even going to sell it at that price to begin with. Like, I've seen like some of these CDs like going for like in the triple digits, like multiple hundreds of dollars. And I'm just thinking, like, you jerk. Like, what if somebody just actually just wants to hear this score and have access to it? This is a good score. I haven't seen the movie, but I have it. The Egyptian is an interesting one. because this release was not complete at the time. So The Legend of the Egyptian, so this is it's a legendary film score. They say it, all-time legendary film scores, and a historical epic jointly scored by Bernard Herrmann and Alfred Newman. The two composers actually shared themes, planned their narrative approach, and merged their styles to the point of truly collaborating, which is crazy. But it's like two giants of the film scoring back then. And the Legend of the Egyptian has continued in that it is score collectors have long believed destroyed. At the onset of 20th Century Fox's film music restoration efforts in 1993, The Egyptian was one of the first films sought, but the master tapes, 35mm film stems, were found to have deteriorated beyond use. With so many other projects needing attention, the surviving cues were transferred to 2-inch analog multi-track tape and put away for another day. Well, another day is here, and Film Score Monthly has gone back to the 2-inch safety transfers to cull and remix every usable cue. To our delight, we have saved over 70 minutes of the 100-plus minute score, including most of the major set pieces by both composers, such as the main and end titles, Newman's Valley of the Kings and Herrmann's Chariot Ride Pursuit, and more. And there was a re-recording of this done in the 90s, and it doesn't hold a candle to the original recording. The cue Chariot Ride and Pursuit is an example of that, where Herrmann was just like, he was able to beat the devil out of the orchestra and get insane tempos, like from the brass and wind section. It was nuts. But it says, with our mandate to preserve everything that exists, we have assembled a fantastic CD of The Egyptian that is longer and more comprehensive than many CDs of Golden Age scores. It is not intended to replace the recent Marco Polo re-recording, or even the original Mono Decca LP, a re-recording once reissued on very Saraband. But collectors know the value of the original soundtrack performed for the film under the batons of the composers in ideal studio conditions, and the immense challenge of any re-recording to surpass it, which I don't think actually was achieved. Here, then, lives The Egyptian in its original stereo glory in the most complete form possible, a cornerstone of any soundtrack collection. And I had this CD initially, and then what happened was they must have found other elements, and they then put out a complete release of the whole score. And I have that now as well, and it spans 2 discs, and it's fantastic. So French, I haven't seen French Connection 2, but yeah, the music was quite good, and it was great of them to bundle those two together. A Man Called Peter, a very good film, very good. It's about a preacher. It's probably some of the best sermons I've seen in a Hollywood film, and also just it's a pleasure to watch because it's an old Hollywood CinemaScope movie, and those always, tend to just look nice. It doesn't feel like a cheapo biopic you would see nowadays. But again, it's Alfred Newman doing a great job. And these were some other Jerry Goldsmith stuff. Ace Eli and Roger of the Skies, which was an early film scripted by Steven Spielberg, I know. And Room 222, which was a TV series, they used some stuff in it. I'm not going to linger on this. I'm going to try and get to some of this. Between Heaven and Hell, Soldier of Fortune. I have this CD. It's very good stuff. Hugo Friedhofer is an incredibly underrated composer. He did The Best Years of Our Lives. He did a lot of war films. A lot of very war films focusing on with a lot of heart, a lot of humanity to them, and his stuff is really excellent. This one I would have freaked out if I had known about this at the time of the release, because this was one of my favorite movies at the time. I still rewatch this movie every year. I enjoy it. I don't care what anyone says. People can hate on Irwin Allen all they want, but the man had fun, and he made just unforgettable movies. He got all these creative people around, and whatever. He was cheap, he was thrifty, but he accomplished what many people have not, and that's indelibility. But this is a great score, and Okay, so the composers for this: Paul Saltel, Bert Schefter, veterans of sci-fi films such as Kronos and The Fly. Saltel and Schefter provided the perfect accompaniment to the Irwin Allen mindset, emphasizing danger, action, suspense, and adventure on and under the seas. Although Saltel later wrote the theme and scored 5 episodes for the Voyage TV series, the feature score is its own entity. They also captured seafaring tropes, which have since become standard in space-based sci-fi scores like Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Starship Troopers. Let's see. Hollywood workers still represented. See if they say anything about the transfers. No, but I think there was one damaged queue. I think he mentions it on there, and there was a later release of I have this original CD, and one of the things I love about the Film School Monthly CDs too is just the design of them. They're all distinct, they're all uniform, and they're all designed by Joe Sikoriak, who is really he does a lot of good work. I actually met him once at a convention, Mocha Fest in New York City. It's an independent comic convention, and he had a table there, and I was chatting him up. I'm probably the only person who would have brought up Film Score Monthly there, but we were actually chatting about that for a minute. He was telling me about some of the rights issues for using images that some of the studios like Warner's was really just like stingy about. I'll get to that later. So we got Morituri. All right, let me check the comments for a second because I'm going nonstop. We got the Big Red Janie said hello. Remember the Flash Gordons? Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, definitely. A lot of good film scores. John Williams helped compose. Yeah, I got to get into some of the older John Williams, like, early stuff. I mean, I love Lost in Space. I have all that stuff, but it's really not like, again, not a lot of it's talked about or currently available anymore. And Scourge of YouTube commenters. Hi, yes, hello indeed. All right, and moving along, we've got Morituri, Raid on Entebbe. Morituri, I hear very mixed things about the movie, and I mean, I would like to see the movie at least to hear the Jerry Goldsmith score. Morituri is an obscure but interesting 1965 suspense film starring Marlon Brando as a German deserter blackmailed into accepting an undercover mission as a Gestapo officer aboard a freighter during World War II with Yul Brynner. And so, yeah, Jerry Goldsmith, and it was presented on CD in complete form, including music cut from the film. For the first time, the score has been remixed to stereo, allowing the composer's aggressive ostinato-based action music to blast through the way it was meant to be heard, with low-end piano, electric bass, and harpsichord. And there was a previous unauthorized CD release of Morituri, which I think I might have come across that once at the Princeton Record Exchange. But if I'm going to get anything, I would have to find. I think they came out with a recent re-release of this CD as well. And David Shire is another great composer too. So I think I saw part of Raid on Entebbe on TV one time. It's one of those movies you catch on TV back when you would do that. This is another good one I have. Best of Everything by Alfred Newman. It was the last score Alfred Newman did at 20th Century Fox, I believe. And the score is centered around this melody from the song, which is... Oh my gosh, it's escaping me. Hang on a second. Johnny Mathis. Oh my gosh. So my Johnny Mathis. It's a great song, and the arrangement in the film is really, really great. Yeah, I would recommend that. It's got that very New York element with a lot of like piano glissando sort of accompaniment. This one, so this is one I scooped up at the Princeton Record Exchange the first time I went there. This is a fantastic score, and it's the Illustrated Man. It's like a package film with 3 different Bradbury stories adapted into the film, and it's kind of interesting. But the score is fantastic, and it's very lyrical, very like pastoral in some ways, and then it goes really weird. So basically, most of Goldsmith's score is found in the film's wraparound sequences, but he creates unique variations of his main theme for the interior stories. The Veldt features the first all-electronic cues of his Goldsmith's career. Cold, atonal tunes that foreshadow the setting music from Logan's Run. There is little music in The Long Rain, but Goldsmith creates fascinating tape delay effects for the sequence's finale. And in The Last End of the World, Goldsmith expands his main theme into a beautiful Renaissance-flavored development for alto recorder. And it was... So orchestral portions of the score were previously pirated in a mono on a German CD. Horrendous production even by bootleg standards. Film Score Monthly's premiere release features the complete score in stereo and in correct sequence, including the electronic cues and, most importantly, the female vocalese for the main and end titles. The electronic stuff and the Veldt, the ending of that segment, the track called Quiet Evening, it's such a fantastic merging of electronic, and then the orchestra comes in at the very end of it for this like crescendo. It's really, really it's alchemical. I don't know, the Goldsmith, like, what can you say if you know his music, bravados. Now, this is another great score. It's by Alfred Newman and some of it by Hugo Friedhofer. The Bravados, the movie itself, it's actually really good. It's kind of underrated. It's very, it's just like a revenge Western, but there's parts of it that make it pretty compelling. And I would definitely say that it's worth watching. Let's check. Oh, hey, okay. So I was checking the comments, a little delayed. Harry Henry, hey, how's it going? Yeah, so he's mentioned there are some bootleg quality scores for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World on Spotify, which sound horrific. I wonder if that is from the release that either La La Land or Entrada did for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, because Entrada released a complete edition of the score, but they had all these kind of a patchwork of sources for it. So I wonder if that even came from there. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, The Bravados is a pretty good movie, and the score is very driving and very good. View from Pompey's Head by Elmer Bernstein. Haven't seen it. Blue Denim. I have heard the score. It's a very sweet score. It's a movie about the drama of teen pregnancy. It's the one of those topical films back then, which I have no interest in. But the score is really good. It's also in the Herman at Fox box set and might have been put on another later CD release. World of Henry Orient by Elmer Bernstein. I have this CD. It's fun. It's fine. I haven't seen the movie, but it looks kind of funny. And it's got Peter Sellers. Broken Lance, another highly regarded Western. Another one I'm not as familiar with, but let's see. Broken Lance score was presented complete, save for one short cue which was lost. Isn't that always just the worst? And in chronological order, remixed from the original 6-track stereo masters. Liner notes are by Ross Carey. There's something unfortunate that happens as we go along, and I'll read through some of the some of these notes, because something happens to certain scores that were owned by RKO when they were, RKO kind of went bankrupt, I think, and they were archived and stuff. I'll get to that later because it's one more layer of complication onto film score preservation. This is interesting. Home, and it's, but this is a John Williams score, so Johnny Williams, that it was that era. So it is about Richard Crenna, Shirley MacLaine, and Peter Ustinov. Crenna plays a U-2 pilot who crash lands in the mythical Arab kingdom of Fawzia and is blackmailed into coaching the King's football team in an exhibition game against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Perhaps the film's biggest claim to fame is that the Notre Dame University sued in an attempt to block the film's release, so offended were they by the picture's raucous humor, racial stereotypes, and the ridiculous situations. Yeah, I wonder if that's why, but that sounds more like a vehicle for like Don Knotts or something. Neat Fox character in the thumbnail. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been using that for my avatars now. Leigh Harline, still know him best for his early Disney work on Snow White and Pinocchio. Yeah, there's a few Harline scores in here that I'll be getting to. And I'm losing my train of thought. Demetrius and the Gladiators. I have seen this movie, and it's I think it's it's a sequel to The Robe. Yeah, so Franz Waxman. Again, I think also sought after. And this Demetrius and the Gladiators was one of the earliest CinemaScope recordings at Fox, and time has not been kind to the Stereo Masters. Although most cues sound marvelous, some damaged passages have been placed at the end of the album. The liner notes identify the chronological sequence. Only 3 cues were completely lost, however, and the album also includes the film's surviving temporary music as a final bonus. The CD includes a 5-minute selection from The Egyptian, previously released on CD, but with a minor synchronization error between orchestra and choir corrected. We regret the mistake, which was identified too late to repress and recall the discs, and hope that fans appreciate having the correct version here. They did that a couple times, where they would just put something extra that they, found later or misplaced or something on some other CD, which it was like, it's better to have it in some form than to kind of say like, oh, well, it's got Farewell, My Lovely by David Shire. Monkey Shines. Oh yeah, both by David Shire. Yeah, so these, and I think both of these have also gotten subsequent releases, but this is the, let's see. Although we usually reshuffle tracks to follow a film's chronology, Farewell, My Lovely was expertly designed by Shire as one of the best LPs of the 1970s. We have therefore retained the LP sequence, adding 1 track of previously unreleased music while remixing most of the cues from the 16-track session masters. Lust for Life, a great movie. I still have been trying to find the CD. And if you don't know, it's the biopic of Vincent van Gogh starring Kirk Douglas, which also this is very interesting. I think this painting right here, Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, also portrays Vincent van Gogh painting this bridge, except you had Martin Scorsese playing Vincent van Gogh, which is one of the most bizarre casting choices, especially because he actually talks in it too, with the same cadence that he's known for. Okay, this one, when I first got on the Film Score Monthly, saw their catalog, this was one of my most wanted CDs, and I did eventually get it. I was at the Tunes, the record store Tunes, and Joel and my friend Joel, who was from the Cinemologists, we were both there, and we're looking through the CDs, and we noticed there's a bunch of Film Score Monthlies, and I'm like, oh, I hope they have Logan's Run, and then they we see it at the same time, and I was a little quicker, and I got it. We almost didn't almost come to blows, but we were really there was a moment where it was just like, come on. I was like, yes, I got it. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're all going to share the music anyway, but And you can actually see the aftermath of that. I was talking about it on the same day. We were filming a field trip video going to various stores. You could probably find that on the Collector 1138, or I guess Depress Productions now, which is the YouTube channel, has a playlist of all those field trip videos. But yeah, this was a fantastic release. So you had the LP had 42 minutes of the score, and had twice been available on CD too. And then FSM had it 74 minutes on CD, the complete score in film order, remixed, remastered from original multi-track elements, and including all the electronic bits and stuff. It's a fantastic score. Joy in the Morning, which I bought because it's Bernard Herrmann, and I have more. I think I overlapped him with Goldsmith, but I have a lot of Bernard Herrmann stuff, and I kind of got this for like completion's sake, and it's fine. It's a melodrama kind of thing. It has some nice stuff in it. There's a little bit of Herrmann's clarinet quintet in here. Herrmann liked to reuse stuff or repurpose it. I don't really mind because he's kind of applying his own musical vernacular to different situations, but that's a good one. The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know the score. But another unreleased score at the time that was given a release. 36 Hours by Dmitri Tiomkin, who I'm not such a fan of, but and this is missing the text when I guess they uploaded it, but this is the Traveling Executioner, weird Jerry Goldsmith score that is a lot of that has a lot of that, I guess, Americana, Dixieland, and circus atmosphere, which definitely sounds interesting. On the Beach, Secret of Santa Vittoria, and those are two very different scores, both by Ernest Gold. Let me just check. Yeah, the apparently Kurosawa picked Scorsese because he saw Marty's enthusiasm for film color restoration at a meeting about film preservation. Well, there you go. If you're going to cast somebody based on enthusiasm, I mean, yeah, like Martin Scorsese is your guy. Like the guy exudes that in every like clip of him you see in the interviews. All right, let's see. Point Blank. I love that movie. That's coming out on Criterion actually soon, which I'll probably get the Blu-ray for that. I really hate that I missed getting this CD because the score is quite moody and I really like it. The Outfit by Jerry Fielding, and again these are both the first release of both of these scores. The Prodigal. Okay, I have a story about something in this movie. So there was a statue. Here we go. There's a statue in this film, and if you look up the Prodigal statue, it's this like demon-looking thing holding a snake, and it's like this idol in the movie. And the movie is a expanded version of the Prodigal Son story. And I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard the score. I have the CD. It's quite nice. It's your 50s biblical score, but it has some good aspects. Especially the main title has a really like dramatic choral aspect to it. But the statue, so it was a movie prop that basically was sold off at an auction. In fact, it was sold off at the same auction that the Time Machine, the George Powell prop, was sold off at. And then it just disappeared. So cut to like early 2000s, and I had seen a picture of the auction that this thing was in because it was a documentary on the Time Machine DVD about the Time Machine and how that was refound after it was sold off. Well, we lived in Delaware, and we're driving down through like near Dover. There's some antique store down there, and we drive past it, and like my parents were always just like, look at that statue that's like, that's like so ugly and like demonic looking. And I look over like, yeah, that is weird. And then I realize later, like, oh my God, that's the statue from the prodigal, or that's the the thing. But we never went in. I said we should go in and tell them what it is, but we didn't. And then like somebody from Lumberton, New Jersey bought it, and like, and then they put it in their backyard, and then the neighbors complained. But before that, I knew what it was, and I should have gone in and like and brought it up. But it was just like, yeah, that thing had a very interesting journey. Anyway, back to the film score stuff. So Bronislaw Kaper, don't have a lot of scores by him. Haven't heard a lot by him, but this is a good one. I Spy by Earl Hagen. So this is so they did a few TV scores, and it's I haven't seen the show. It's got Robert Culp and Bill Cosby. I don't know. A lot of people love it though. It got made into a movie with I think Eddie Murphy and some other guy later on. But yeah, so I can't speak to that one. But okay, this one I can speak to. Above and Beyond, which is I love this score, and it's Hugo Friedhofer again, super underrated guy, but he does such good scores. The leitmotifs are just well developed over time. You just feel like they're like fulfilled by the end of the score. The orchestration, the way the orchestras use the colors in it and are great. And this one has some really, really great stuff. The whole like all the music about this movie is about the Enola Gay, basically the bomb run over Hiroshima, and the whole like sequence of music for the bomb run is like, it was really, really good, and very impactful. I get chills listening to it. It's but what's great is it's like I really should do another analysis of this movie because I used to do the film score videos, but the motif that for like the explosion, the bomb, comes in very small and very tiny early on, and then in the Hiroshima run, it's like in this it erupts into this apocalyptic variation, which, you know, when you hear that progression throughout the score, it's just really satisfying. But there's also that element for the themes for the characters and so it's basically about the strained relationship with the pilot and his wife and having their kid and what, you know. So moving on, Gypsy Moths, haven't seen it. I've seen the CD around a few times at some places. I'm not so big into Elmer Bernstein. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So I had to clip this because this didn't get really its own full page ad because they didn't have much art to go with. As I was mentioning earlier, Joe Sikoriak did a lot of the art direction. He basically, like, Warner's apparently was incredibly stingy with providing artwork for them to use in their releases. I'm pretty sure it was Warner's. But they didn't give them, I think, no, it was a John Wayne estate or something like that. And Warner wouldn't let them have it. So they had to just, have all this artwork made up from scratch for this release. But this is a Miklos Roja score. I haven't heard, but I love Roja's stuff. I'm gonna have to get it in there. Unlikely pop hit by Barry Sadler, Ballad of the Green Berets. And yeah, due to licensing restrictions, we regret the absence of motion picture artwork in the packaging for the CD, but the music is all present and accounted for in spectacular stereo sound. So I love that about it too. It's like really, really granular fans like making this stuff and also making a fantastic product too. But they're speaking to a lot of these issues that you're going to notice off the bat. Scaramouche by Victor Young. Another Golden Age score. Haven't acquainted myself with it. World, the Flesh, and the Devil, another Miklos Rozsa score, an apocalyptic film with Harry Belafonte. At least I think that's who that is. Yeah. Mel Ferrer. Okay, The Prize. So I do have this. I even have the movie. I've seen it a few times. It's what I would call like a afternoon movie, Sunday cable afternoon movie. It's not like great, but it's interesting and kind of like one you would put on in the background. It's written by Ernest Lehman, who wrote North by Northwest, and the Jerry Goldsmith score is good and everything. That's why I got it. But it's like the Nobel Prize centering around it, and somebody trying to kidnap one of the winner or something, played by Edward G. Robinson. And you got Kevin McCarthy is in it. Let's see. Seventh Sin. Haven't seen it. Haven't heard of it, but oh, okay. I wanted to mention one thing. Okay, going back up to Above and Beyond. So, although originally recorded in stereo, Above and Beyond, one of only a handful of scores Friedhofer composed at the studio, is presented in complete chronological form in the best possible monaural sound, as the stereo reels were discarded in the 1960s. The liner notes are by film music scholar and Friedhofer expert William R. H. Russer. So the reason that happened is these scores got some scores when they were like re-cataloged in the studio archives, either for storage reasons. A lot of stereo scores basically got folded down into mono, and like that re-recorded onto a new tape, and then the original stereo stuff trashed. That's why it has been such a pain for years getting a decent release of the George Powell War of the Worlds score and stuff like that. And this had a similar fate, although thankfully, like all the score, you can at least hear it in really good mono sound. All right, so let's see. Yeah. Okay, so they started doing some TV stuff with Man from U.N.C.L.E. And I'll just catch up on some comments. Oh, yeah. The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm. FSM did a CD of that. Later we'll get to that. And yes, the sequel to The Robe, Demetrius and the Gladiators, is... yeah, it's not... I'm not big into Bernstein. That's genuinely a surprise. I do like a lot of his scores. I think it's just not, he's just not very high on my list, just because I have a lot of other composers who are very high. But I love the Ten Commandments. I love his score for heavy metal. Saturn III is very interesting and underrated. But yeah, no, I don't dislike him. Okay, so they have The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And this was, I think, yeah, the first of a couple volumes of this they did. So they started releasing some other TV stuff. I've actually never seen an episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. There's just so much out there to see. Never So Few, Seven Women, Hugo Friedhofer, another score by him, really good. Never So Few, a World War II romance adventure starring Frank Sinatra as the leader of a U.S. Army unit in Southeast Asia, known as Rat Pack production. It also starred Peter Lawford and directed by John Sturges. The film is perhaps most noteworthy for giving Steve McQueen his break on the silver screen. A Tribute to a Bad Man by Miklos Rozsa with James Cagney. I've gotten to love James Cagney ever since like I just got into like just watching him on film. It's his stuff is great. Like White Heat is great. I love the Roaring Twenties. Picture Snatcher is such a good time. That is like pre-code at its most fun, and also just it's a very brisk, entertaining movie. Plymouth Adventure, another Rozsa score. Again, I think this one is available still on Screen Archives under the Film Score Monthly section. And hopefully my voice lasts through this whole ordeal. Oh yeah. I just seeing the images from this movie and just the title. I love Ice Station Zebra. And the score is by Michel Legrand, which is a very interesting choice to score this kind of movie, because Michel Legrand, you think of French New Wave Godard and also Jacques Demy, musical films, but he does a very good job and very, very cool stuff. Like you wouldn't expect some of the musical textures that he uses in some of the scenes. But this is another one where I'm like, it was available when I still got into Film Score Monthly. I kept putting it off, and then it went out of stock, and now I can't because price gougers. That's why. And but one day I hope. Yeah, this is another one of my on my list of most wanted. And let's see, released on LP at the time of the film. 30-minute, 40-second soundtrack to Ice Station Zebra was reissued on CD by Pendulum Entertainment Group in '97. Now out of print. Film Score Monthly's premiere release of the complete score runs 79 minutes and 20 seconds, including deleted cues, is resequenced into film order and remixed from the original master elements for significantly improved sound. It is the definitive presentation. Oh, I don't know what this. Home from the Hill. Again, movies people had really forgotten, and they're even doubly forgotten now, but what is this? Robert Mitchum as a powerful Texas patriarch, Eleanor Parker as his brittle wife, George Hamilton as their sheltered son, and George Peppard as Mitchum's worldly but illegitimate other son. I'm like half expecting it to be a Tennessee Williams adaptation. Okay, yeah, so this is another good one. I would like to get a CD copy of this. I do have I have it in one form, but I'll just say that. But yeah, Lalo Schifrin, again, another composer you would not expect to pair with this sort of thing. But this has some great stuff in it, and I mean, I really like the movie too. I actually listened to the whole CD because my college, the previous college that no longer exists anymore, University of the Arts, they had this in their music library, and one time I went up in there and sat and listened to the whole thing. And also in their music library, they had all of the back issues, the physical back issues of Film Score Monthly. So that's where I actually read a lot of articles in there and whatnot when I was going to school there. Does it say premiere release? Yeah, okay. All Fall Down and The Outrage. Alex North. The Outrage is a American remake of Rashomon, which is interesting. And I wonder if it's any good. Okay, so you've got Green Fire. Very good. The main melody is great, and Miklos Rozsa milks that. It's this beautiful main melody, which even has a theme song in the main titles. But let's see what else Okay, yeah, this was another one that I wanted from the get-go when I got into Film Score Monthly, because it Soylent Green is one that I've watched a few times. It's a classic, but the score for it is very interesting because it's a combination and mishmash of a lot of different styles. But this guy, Fred Myrow, who really didn't do much film stuff. He worked in theater mostly. But there's listening to it on CD, you appreciate some of the score a lot more. And there's the piece that he wrote for the scene where Edward G. Robinson, spoiler alert, basically goes to be euthanized. And in the movie, they play a bunch of classical music, but there was this original composition that was written for that scene, which actually is basically like a has a precursor to it in the main title music, and it's quite moving. But yeah, that's good. And I've seen Demon Seed as well, which is a wild movie. This is like basically this AI wants to impregnate Julie Christie so that there will be a half human, half machine offspring and all this stuff. But it's like the interesting thing about the movie is that there's like the computer builds itself a body out of like this like kind of metal that then opens and like changes form and does all this stuff, and it's really unusual and very strange. It's that movie's got some kind of off the wall stuff. Knights of the Round Table and The King's Thief, both by Roja. And my voice is fading. So I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to grab some more water. Okay. Now, there's so many movies out there now that I realize, like, these studio movies, these MGM movies, these 20th Century Fox movies, like, how hard are they, to see now? How much harder than they were back then? I mean, you could at least go to a video store, but, you were beholden to the streaming services, or, you could hunt around online, I guess, but, oh, yeah. Just catching up on the comments. Yeah, the AI Jesus in the THX 1138, it's like, makes me think of this statement by Francis Schaeffer, who was a theologian. He said, when there's no absolute by which to judge society, society will be absolute. But yeah, THX is a good movie, and I'm really kind of sorry that it too has been kind of like tampered with, but it's still a good movie. You can still appreciate its merits. Oh yeah, that's right. Robert Duvall died recently. Yeah. Demon Seed is basically sci-fi Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, you're right about that. All right. And this one looks like we got the trim marks on the side, which is cool. I don't know. It's like, you can see the date and time that he finished working on this page. 03, man. I was 12 years old. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Jerome Moross. Now, Jerome Moross, he was a friend of Bernard Herrmann, and I have a CD that pairs some of their compositions for string quintet or quartet, basically like chamber music. But this sounds like a really fun, good score. Excuse me. Also, is that Buster Keaton? I don't know. Huckleberry Finn was one time planned as a musical by MGM with songs written by Burton Lane and Alan J. Lerner. Although the finished film is not a musical, snippets of the Lane-Lerner songs were retained as source music. Film Score Monthly's premiere CD includes these occasional vocals as they were intertwined into Moros's score, as well as rare demos of the primary song Huckleberry Finn. Let's see, Our Mother's House and The 25th Hour by George Delarue. Haven't seen either of them. There's a lot of these where I haven't seen it or have it or even heard it, but it's there. If these are some of these are films or have heard of, then know that Film Score Monthly gave it their treatment. The Appointment, Michel Legrand, John Barry, and Don Walker Stufeld. Wait, what? Okay, whoa. Okay, this is interesting. The Appointment was a 1969 drama starring Omar Sharif as a lonely Italian attorney who weds a beautiful model, Anukami, while suspecting that she is a high-priced prostitute. Directed by Sidney Lumet, The Appointment was a troubled production that led to it receiving 3 fully recorded scores by 4 composers. FSM's premiere release of the original soundtrack features selections from each, making for a rare and fascinating look at 3 different approaches to a single film. So that's pretty interesting. Toys in the Attic. Let's see, it's some psychological film. Vet Me Mew, is it? George Dunning. Interesting. Okay, so we've gotten some TV stuff. Hawkins on Murder. Winter, Kill, and Babe. But not that Babe. Some music by Jerry Goldsmith. Interestingly, apparently Jerry Goldsmith was going to do music for like Babe, like the pig movie. And he actually wrote some of it. And it's out there if someday somebody decides to do a performance of it. Okay, that is Buster Keaton in the Huckleberry Finn. I had someone still asking where the Fox character is from. I just designed him. I just used it as a mask. You know, just an avatar. I just think foxes are cool. All right. Wild Rovers by Jerry Goldsmith. And another one. There's so many westerns. I can't see them all. Previous LP and CD releases of Wild Rovers had been a London re-recording with 2 songs performed by Ellen Smith. Actually, Ellen Goldsmith, the composer's daughter. That's interesting. Goldsmith's had his wife and his daughter perform songs for scores for movies that he's scored. This definitive CD features a complete Los Angeles recorded underscore, never before released, an unused title song. The Cobweb with Edge of the City. So these are both early scores of Leonard Rosenman. The Cobweb is, you know, its claim to fame is that it is basically yeah, it's crazy. Leonard Rosenman did The Lord of the Rings, the Bakshi one, and Star Trek 4, because it's just not what you think of with his style. And I kind of don't find those scores all that memorable or great either. But yeah, so it was a second assignment and the first serial score written for film, in which he famously used the 12-tone technique of his teachers, Arnold Schoenberg. But it's I have this CD, and the interesting experiment, I guess you could say, that it is. Edge of the City, I like that too. The Brothers Karamazov with Bronislaw Kaper scoring. I haven't seen that. Oh no, I have seen some of the movie. Yeah, that one is deservedly, a classic, I think. With the score, anyway. And you have Volume 2 of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., featuring more Goldsmith and others. And Goldsmith did a lot of scored on a bunch of great shows, a bunch of famous shows. Okay, On Dangerous Ground with Bernard Herrmann. So this one was a kind of a sore spot for a lot of film score people for a while, because as this goes on, so this movie is hard-boiled cop. Robert Ryan plays a hard-boiled cop with a habit of brutalizing suspects, sent from the big city to the snowbound countryside where he must capture a dangerous murderer and rapist. Ryan becomes involved with a sympathetic blind woman, played by Ida Lupino. But when the blind woman turns out to be the murderer's sister, Ryan finds his ruthless pursuit at odds with his burgeoning emotions. So the what it says here is Herrmann's complete masterwork in chronological order. Unfortunately, master tapes to RKO Productions are long since destroyed. Many such cases. And this CD has been mastered from acetate discs in the Bernard Herrmann collection at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And they make sure you don't miss this either. Important. Although these discs have been transferred and denoised by specialists, the recording is entirely in mono. Many of the most important cues have been mastered from 16-inch 33 1/3 RPM discs in excellent sound, including the prelude and major chase cues. But the remainder of the cues exist only on 12-inch 33 1/3 RPM discs with a great deal of surface noise. We've made every effort to improve the sound quality without distorting the music. Yeah, so if you look it up, I think you could probably find on YouTube some examples of it, but it was really rough. The sound quality was really rough on it. But then they did a re-recording of this score a few years ago, which was phenomenal. And hang on a second, I can grab off the shelf. Where'd it go? Well, shoot, I don't know, but it's, a vast improvement. In fact, the score is really, really good, and it's the initial introduction of several motifs that pop up in other Herrmann scores. There's some stuff that you kind of hear later in Vertigo, Journey to the Center of the Earth, even, but the big showpiece is the Death Hunt, which I still maintain is the most exciting piece of film music ever written, especially when it was done in the Charles Gerhard film score, series of LPs he did. That version is the best. But the whole score was re-recorded recently and given its due, I think. McHugh, another. I kind of got confused with Brannigan, what the one where John Wayne is a cop and he goes to England. But I got that confused with this one. This was Brannigan was a fun movie. Or at least there's a scene where John Wayne has a scene with the guy who plays Baldric from Blackadder, and he throws him into the Thames or something. That's the crossover I never thought would exist. I must have missed the first time you answered. Sorry. Oh, you're good. No, it's Bakshi Lord of the Rings one looks even worse when compared to what Howard Shore did on the Jackson films, which is just masterful in my opinion. Yes, no, Howard Shore is great. No, his stuff is really good. I actually got to meet him one time. My family went to a live orchestral, performance of the score at Lincoln Center. And afterwards there was a signing and everything, and Howard Shore was there, and I got to chat him up, and I said, oh yeah, by the way, my personal favorite score of yours is for Ed Wood. And he was like, oh, thanks, mine too. That was the first time I've met a film composer. But yeah, the Leonard Rosenman score for the Bakshi Lord of the Rings it's not great. There's some nice stuff in it, but I don't think it really works for that world. Moonfleet, which is a really cool title, but set in 1757 Dorsetshire, follows an orphan boy who is placed in the custody of a cultured rogue, only to find his would-be caretaker in league with smugglers. Miklos Roja, again, another one. And it's the premiere CD of the score. Complete underscore in stereo from original 35mm master elements. And an alternate score cues. Okay. Oh, man. So I missed out on these. I'm really annoyed. I think I found my favorite niche of film history too. It's the 1960s, late 50s, 1960s, war film, adventure, or just genre films in general. Like that period up to like the new Hollywood introduction is my sweet spot, 50s and 60s. But yeah, Where Eagles Dare is fantastic. I recently saw Operation Crossbow for the first time, and I really liked that. That was like kind of like a James Bond movie in World War II, because they follow some like actual historical the V weapon stuff for a while, and then they kind of take it into the extrapolate it into the realm of fiction with like kind of this super rocket, but it like super rocket that was kind of conceptualized but never actually built. That was aimed at New York, but that was a good film. And then Ron Goodwin became the composer for these British productions of these war movies, because he did Battle of Britain and whatnot. But yeah, Where Eagles Dare, that's a very fine score. And The Prisoner of Zenda. This is interesting too, because this is a remake of a 30s version, and the 1937 film, Selznick film, had been scored by Alfred Newman, and as part of the concept of replacing the earlier film, Alfred Newman's score was reused for the 1952 version, adapted by MGM's. Last second. All right, let me know if something happened. OBS was having a little fit for a second, and I might have to split this into 2 nights if things get unwieldy. But okay, Khartoum, a movie. Frank Cordell, who's a composer I barely have any knowledge of, but is very well regarded. And the movie, I don't know how well regarded it is. It sounds interesting. It's got Charlton Heston as British General Charles Chinese Gordon, who in 1885 defended the city of Sudanese city of, oh, there's a typo, Khartoum against an uprising led by the Mahdi, an Islamic militant. Oh, but played by Laurence Olivier, of course. The film was well regarded for Heston's performance, as well as those of its British stars. Okay. And then you got Mosquito Squadron. I just love the pairings they do on these. That's one I'll have to look into. Diane, Miklos Roja. Oh yeah, this was something, like I'd never heard of the Logan's Run TV show until I was looking through Film Score Monthly stuff, but it was short-lived, of course, and yeah, only lasted 14 episodes, but is fondly remembered by genre fans for its attractive characters, entertaining sci-fi plots, and futuristic gadgets. I guess so. Well, I know Angela Cartwright is in an episode. And then Bruce Broughton, Gerald Immel, Jeff Alexander did scores that are represented on this CD, which is pretty interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Harry says, I know Khartoum was the last 70mm Ultra Panavision film until Hateful Eight. I saw Hateful Eight in 70mm, actually. It was a cool experience. So you got Bronislaw Caper, The Swan, which I have not seen. Alex North. Has some pretty good scores. I find him very, I don't know, what's the word? Prickly? Something. It's very like jagged in something of his scores. I have his score for the Agony and the Ecstasy, which is really, really good. I also have the Spartacus, which sometimes I find a little, I don't know, just like too emotionally like cloying or something. And then there's Alex North's unused score for 2001, which was actually like re-recorded by Jerry Goldsmith conducting for Varese Sarabande in the 90s. The Fastest Gun Alive. Oh yeah, Andre Previn. That's right. I always forget because he is was a big classical conductor, but he also did a lot of film scoring. Let's see, Big Wednesday, Basil Polydoros. And yeah, this was a John Milius film. I'm just gonna move through this a little brisker. Okay, Miklos Rozsa, Julius Caesar. Yep. Born Free, John Barry. Everybody knows the melody. Cimarron, Franz Waxman. Ride the High Country, George Bassman. I'll Cry Tomorrow, Alex North. Man from U.N.C.L.E. Volume 3. So they were really serving the fans well back. Saddle the Wind, Elmer Bernstein. And a lot of these, it's like I don't care about a lot of these, but I care that they were released at all, and like that they made the effort to do it. This one is, gosh, I missed out on this one, but this is so, because you demanded it and had no idea what you were getting into. Mutiny on the Bounty. This is a 3-disc set that they put out. There was, yeah. So the film's post-production was so protracted that each and every cue was recorded twice and sometimes thrice. First in March 1962, then in June, and again in September and October. 2 different endings to the score appeared on varying editions of the LP. Those are here. And so were each and every alternative orchestral cue and much of the source music. This release features the 3 programs split over 3 CDs. Disc 1 and the beginning of Disc 2 features the complete score as it is heard in the finished film. The remainder of Disc 2 and beginning of Disc 3 features a complete alternative score and the initial recording sessions as it was intended from March 1962. The Disc 3 features album versions, additional source music, and additional alternative orchestral cues. 4 hours of music, all remastered from the original 6-track 35mm film. Whew. Yeah. I mean, you do see releases like that, like this now from the other labels, but it just, when this stuff was just coming out, it was just like, it was exciting. It was new. Like, you were unearthing all this stuff. And Valley of the Kings. I have this CD, with the Men of the Fighting Lady, which is like this short film or shortish film, but it has like this almost 20 minute like cue basically in the middle of it, and it kind of works as like a tone poem sort of thing for Rozsa to work with. And the Valley of the Kings is some good stuff too. I'm less familiar with it though. See some more John Williams and Henry Mancini, Penelope, and Bachelor in Paradise. Some more Andre Previn, The Subterraneans. Oh yeah, okay. Kelly's Heroes. Yeah, here's the other one I love too. The from that era, and another one where I like, the price gougers draw my ire every time I try to look this thing up, how much it's going for, because I missed out on this too. But because many of the underscore cues, it says, were not included in the film and have never been heard, chief among them Schifrin's original main and end titles, featuring the whistling theme and replaced in the film by Burning Bridges, which I'll get that song stuck in my head every time I think about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do feel really bad he wasn't told that it had been replaced until he saw the film Alex North and the 2001 score. That was gosh. Kubrick and some directors and music, let me tell you what, like Ridley Scott and Jerry Goldsmith's Alien score, that's another one where, thank God he didn't get rid of the whole score, but he did stuff to it that was, displeasing, I guess, to Jerry. And yeah, this is a fun score. Well, it has some really cool, especially the music with the tiger tanks for that scene. That was very memorable. Oh yeah, so The Thing, Dmitry Tiomkin and Take the High Ground. So these are two scores by Tiomkin, and I've never really been that interested in Tiomkin's music. Interestingly, Thing from Another World is only like 26 minutes on this CD. Like the other score is much longer, but they know what was going to sell this CD. And master tapes to The Thing are long lost, but the complete score survived on monaural acetate transfer discs in Tiomkin's personal collection, and that source has been used for this premiere CD. Some surface noise is present, but the sound is superior to our earlier release from acetates of On Dangerous Ground. Two cues are even in rudimentary stereo, owing to the use of separate overlays. It's like I was mentioning earlier, Fat Mono. Oh, yeah. Yeah. These are two movies. I love George Powell's stuff. I have not seen these two movies, but I have this CD. And it's really, it's really good. But it's interesting too, though. He's reusing some stuff occasionally from The Time Machine in Atlantis, but the Power is Russell Garcia. I mean, is reusing some stuff, but Miklos Roja doing the music for The Power. I really want to see this movie, and so apparently, as it says here, The Power has previously been available in unauthorized form on LP and CD. Unfortunately, the complete master tapes of the film have deteriorated beyond use. So this private, 29-minute album program is all that survives of the original soundtrack. It is presented here in its first authorized edition, remastered from Citadel Records' original quarter-inch stereo tape. Now, also The Power, one of Powell's most offbeat films, starring George Hamilton as the head of a government think tank attempting to track down Adam Hart, a mysterious mastermind with mental powers beyond that of ordinary humans. So I'll get to it later, but Film Score Monthly put out a box set of Miklos Roja, and in that time they had actually found masters for The Power and put in, released the complete score in that box set, but that box set is long sold out, and it's the only place the complete score has ever been released. So this has happened so many times with these CDs. And who knows if, another release will come along. You kind of, it really twists people's arms in a way to seek other means. But Green Mansions by Bronislaw Kaper, Anthony Perkins and Audrey Hepburn. Have not seen it. And it's one of those movies that kind of floats on the periphery. 633 Squadron and Submarine X1. Two more war films by Ron Goodwin. 633 Squadron, I think, is the film. Basically, the only reason people talk about it is because George Lucas based the climax of it, based the Death Star trench run on the climax of this movie, and that's about it. But okay, yeah. So we got John Barry's King Kong score. Now, I'll get to this later. This Film Score Monthly put out another release of this later, so because at the time they were really disappointed they were only able to get the masters for the LP album, but there were some rights issues. But later on, they were able to get through that. 2 Weeks in Another Town is like a spiritual sequel to The Bad and the Beautiful, and it's got some wild stuff in it. I would watch it again. Yeah. Don't remember the score too much, but Jericho by, is that? Okay, Jerry Goldsmith, and then The Ghostbreaker, John Williams. So some TV stuff by them. Some mid-60s TV stuff. So I would find this if I could, actually, because I really want to get some more stuff that has that mid-60s John Williams stuff, especially if it sounds like Lost in Space. So we got Lord Jim, Long Ships. And this one was a surprise. So you got some Knight Rider scores by Stu Phillips. Not all of the stuff, but just what they could. at the time. Also, I wish I'd gotten some of the Battlestar Galactica music for at least like the pilot movie. That score is a lot better than I remember the last time I watched it. Maurice Jarre, who I'm not too much a fan of Maurice Jarre. I feel like he was like repeating himself a lot, or then he just jumped over to a lot of synths later on, which I didn't find as good. It kind of, I feel like he peaked at Lawrence of Arabia, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so now we come to the release that got me into Film Score Monthly. It's my first year in college. I was looking around online for the Time Machine, see if like the CD, because there was a CD put out of it, to see if it was available. And I noted that Film Score Monthly, like there was this other CD with this cover, and I was like, oh wow, that's a different one. Is there like a new release? And so I fall down the rabbit hole of the specialty like soundtrack label market, and but this was the first Film Score Monthly CD that I got, and it'll always be special. But also the score is, I love it. I have so much warmth for this movie, and the music is so much a part of that. It's the soul of that movie. But it says the CD marks the premiere release of the original soundtrack recording for The Time Machine. An earlier recording released on CD by GNP Crescendo was a 1987 re-recording conducted by the composer in Germany, except for 3 brief tracks from the film itself. The complete symphonic score is presented in stereo with effects passages, which Garcia himself supervised and considered part of his score, interpolated in mono. Now, those mono, or those sound effects things, those are not like intrusive in a bad way, because those form like a part of the sonic identity of the movie when he gets to the future and these weird sounds are emanating and whatnot. And so like those are included, but also some of these cues that have some of that stuff layered over them are included in a outtake suite at the end of the CD, like just the orchestra. So, you know, if you're opposed to that, you can at least get that. But yeah, so I got, the Time Machine made me immediately just, yes, like I've always wanted this music. And the re-recording it mentions was actually released in full recently, so they've re-released that version as well. The Getaway, which I've seen this movie and it was a miserable, I just thought it was one of the just most miserable, like kind of nauseating films. It just perfectly embodied what like 70s movies, like new Hollywood stuff makes me think of. It's here it's Jerry Fielding's original score, so there wasn't and that apparently has a DVD about the Jerry Fielding, Sam Peckinpah, and The Getaway. So just reminiscence by 3 of the women in Jerry Fielding's life. Interesting, fascinating. Let's see, Invitation, Bronislaw Caper, Life of Her Own. And okay, yeah, the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. So this was one of the first ones. So we've come to the end of this PDF. I had to compile this because these were all of the print ads that they put in the magazine for their CDs. So now I have to switch over to this other document, which you'll see here, because Film Score Monthly no longer they have pages for their CD catalog on their website. But like I said, the website got, like, when they revamped it last year, they removed some of like the images. They made it a little less, I don't know, they sucked some of the character out of it, as a lot of new websites do. But so I'm picking up exactly where in the catalog list where I left off. I just had to comb through the internet to get the artwork for the CDs. So Yakuza by Dave Grusin, haven't seen it. I think it's kind of cool that on the spine here, though, they put the title and the name in Japanese. Also, it's pretty cool. Robert Mitchum's in that. And then, yeah, so I archived like their rundown that you would find on the print ad in here because, frankly, I don't know. Like some of the CDs don't have a page. Like it says like CD missing or something. So I had to go to Screen Archives. So yeah, I had to go to Screen Archives. The website to see if the CD was still available, because then that means the write-up that was originally on the other website would be there anyway. So we've got Lily, Bronislaw Caper, which looks cute, I guess. I'm going to move through this. Okay, Coma and Westworld. Coma's by Jerry Goldsmith, and then Westworld, Fred Karlin, Roy Budd, I think. Although, The Carrie Treatment. Okay, so they snuck in another film in there. And I don't have that one. The Glass Slipper. Got another one, never seen, never heard. This one is very interesting. So this is a John Barry duet of two. These aren't expanded. These are just re-releases from the original album masters. Alice's Adventure in Wonderland was a musical version of Alice in Wonderland in the 70s. There were two Alice in Wonderland musicals released in the 70s, and one of them is definitely not this John Barry one. It was I think it was actually called the X-rated musical, but although on the one hand John Barry did do the music for Lolita, a musical, which is one of the weirdest things I've ever come across. But so this music and the songs are very, very nice, especially the arrangements and everything, as you're expecting, because it's got lyrics by Don Black, who did a lot of the lyrics for the Bond songs that John Barry worked on with John Barry. And then this score for Petulia, which is a nice jazzy kind of thing. So then Elmer Bernstein's Film Music Collection box set. I think this might have been the first box set that Film Score Monthly did. So it says, one of the most important film score recordings of all time, Elmer Bernstein's Film Music Collection from 74 to 79. Legendary composer Elmer Bernstein financed his own series of classical film score LPs, which he distributed through a mail order club. Though a few of the albums were reissued on LP and one on CD, the entire series has long been out of print and a holy grail for film music aficionados. And this 12-disc box set is the definitive CD presentation of the Film Music Collection. Features Max Steiner, Franz Waxman, Miklos Rozsa, Bernard Herrmann, including the unused Torn Curtain score. And it sounds great. I just, there's the scores have gotten original recordings released and whatnot, but I was in no position to ever get that box set. And then you've got Zigzag and the Super Cops. Two things I've never heard of, and I'm sure the people also didn't hear about that either. But what is Zigzag? Mystery thriller starring George Kennedy, of course, was one of Nelson's new feature scores. Like I said, we've got interesting Super Cops, based on a true story about a pair of low-level cops who took it upon themselves to clean up a dangerous area of New York City. And let's see. Bell Book and Candle. I've always wanted to snag this one. I think it's out of stock now, but that's a fun score. The movie's fun too. It's also one of the few movies that has Ernie Kovacs in it. See, Force 10 from Navarone with music by Ron Goodwin. I haven't seen this one, but I keep getting it recommended because it does look good. I don't know if anyone has seen that. I know, yeah. Yeah, mixing up the two 70s Alice in Wonderland films could be dangerous. Yeah, I know. And the classic, just things getting crappier with every quote unquote improvement. But so Force 10 from Navarone is something I'll have to check out. The Swimmer, I have heard this score, and it's really beautiful. The premise sounds really, really odd, though. Burt Lancaster, as a narcissistic suburbanite who decides to swim home one day through the pools of his wealthy Connecticut neighbors. which is and a shocking twist. Yeah, I don't know. It's intriguing. But Marvin Hamlish, who I think I know mostly for him doing the score for The Spy Who Loved Me, which I really like. But that's a good one. Not with my wife, you don't. It says John Williams. Also, another thing I want to say is I had to replace, when I copy pasted the text from these pages, all of the names of the composers were wrong. In fact, they must have been auto-generated because they made no gosh dang sense. One of them said Gary Coleman. It's so bizarre. Like, they had a whole Kickstarter to like revamp the website and everything. And then it just looks like every other dang website out there. And also you have like just screw ups like that. But yeah, this is John Williams. And apparently they did 2 volumes of this score because, so it says FSM reissued the LP re-recording of Not With My Wife You Don't in March 2006. The album program offered a unique and delightful listening experience in its own right, but the CD offers the premiere release of the nearly complete original film tracks derived from the original half-inch 3-track scoring masters. And then this was a 3-disc set. Yeah, 3-disc set for this Goodbye Mr. Chips starring Peter O'Toole. Another John Williams score. So many forgotten John Williams scores. More John Williams stuff. Checkmate and Rhythm in Motion. And these are just very obscure things. I think Rhythm in Motion is just a... What is it? Even film music. Yeah, it's comprised of 12 popular show tunes arranged by Williams into upbeat instrumentals for enhanced big band. And we've got Bernard Herrmann's The Wrong Man score, which I don't have actually. It's not one of lesser Hitchcock movies, I think. Diamond Head by, who did that one? John Williams or Lalo Schifrin? Schifrin, yeah. So moving along. Okay, the Chips. What an interesting. Yeah, so they released 3 volumes of this, actually. Chips was a police adventure drama about to be retooled for its 2nd season. The producer, Cy Chermak, hired Silvestri to be the show's weekly composer, for which the assignment was to write everything in an upbeat disco style. So Alan Silvestri was doing that. And then 7 Faces of Dr. Lau, which I haven't seen, but I have this CD, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's Leigh Harline doing some more fun stuff, which listening to some of the music would not be out of place in a Disney movie of that period, because he was doing that. The Life and Times of the Judge Roy Bean, Maurice Jarre. I don't know anything else about it. Dead Ringer. I've not seen that. See, The Yearling and Random Harvest. I have this CD. It's got 2 scores on it. It's some nice stuff. I can't really say it. This is one of the first Film Score Monthly CDs I got after the Time Machine, because I was really getting into Ennio Morricone, and this is one of the few Morricone CDs scores that they put out. But this has some beautiful stuff in it, like the opening title, the vocals, like the love theme, especially the chase music in the beginning. That's a good one. Here's one I wish I had: The Liquidator, with Rod Taylor. This was one of a bunch of movies in the I think the late '60s, directed by Jack Cardiff, known for being the cinematographer often for Powell and Pressburger, but he did a bunch of these like thriller action genre exploitation film. Like he did Girl on a Motorcycle around that time. But this one has some pretty good scoring. I just never got to get my own copy. Spy with My Face, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Movies, which I don't really know much about, but that's really cool that they put those out. This one didn't even have an entry in the list on the website. So they did this whole like Tom and Jerry and Tex Avery 2 like collection of music from a bunch of these shorts, and 2 discs, Scott Bradley's music for them. And it says volume 1. They never did a volume 2, but it's like crazy if you are really into that music, and like it has a release in this form. Raintree County. This has 2 discs. Very highly regarded. Last Run by Jerry Goldsmith. Haven't seen it. Just going to go through. Some Came Running. Pretty good score. I haven't listened to it as much. I do have the CD, though. Okay. Oh, pardon me. The Dr. Lowe. The correct pronunciation is Dr. Lowe. Where am I going? Wrath of God. Now, this is a really interesting film. There's a video that came out about this actually by this channel called Your Captain Speaking, a guy who tackles a lot of like pulp. And he talks about a lot of stuff, but he apparently found out that this film like it no longer has any physical releases, and it was put out, I think, by Warner Archive, but everything's out of print now, and I think it's just on archive.org you can find it. But this guy, he went to like the length of like buying some 16mm prints to it, because the film is pretty much forgotten. It looks pretty good. Looks fun, and it's got a Lalo Schifrin score that's like good. But and Robert Mitchum, playing a Tommy gun wielding priest is a draw. You got the Long Long Trailer and Forever Darling, 2 Lucy and Desi movies. Oh man, there's a lot. I'm gonna get through this, but Damn the Defiant, Behold a Pale Horse, Dirty Dozen, another one I wish I'd gotten. Music by Frank DeVol. And DeVol provided 2 original songs for the film. It is previously released in LP and CD, but this definitive release more than doubles the playing time and remixes and remasters the sound quality from the original 35mm track stereo recordings for vastly improved sonics. Yeah, this movie, I used to watch this all the time with my brother back in the early 2000s when we got into World War II stuff a lot, like really deep when we were young, especially because the game Medal of Honor came out, and then there was a lot of like World War II stuff going on in one way. So this is one of those releases where the fact that the story behind this is the master tapes to this. Okay, so first off, it's a pretty solid movie. I like it, and Jerry Goldsmith's score is fantastic. It's a techno thriller, as it would be called today, about a top secret virus capable of ending all life on Earth, stolen from a secret government installation in the Southwest. George Maharis plays the government agent assigned to retrieve it, with Richard Basehart, Ed Asner, Anne Francis, and Dan Andrews. And the book it was based on was by Alistair MacLean, directed by John Sturges. And it's a pretty solid movie, but the score is, great. And the opening credits are just fantastic, like some of my favorite ever. But because they feature this like really distinctive stylistic animation and the visuals. But the thing about this score that everybody now knows who's, been in film score, in looking at this stuff for a while, is the master tapes to The Saint and Bug were thought to be long destroyed, along with most of United Artists' original soundtracks, but 2 reels turned up miraculously in the collection of Bob Burns, a beloved industry figure who has archived countless movie props and artifacts. The 2 units of the half-inch 3-track stereo masters recorded at the Samuel Goldwyn scoring stage in terrific sound quality represent around 40% of the score, though none of the large-scale action cues. I mean, it's so painful. you almost wish that they didn't find anything, because you don't have the best stuff in the score. And I keep saying, like, people are begging, like, do the next re-recording, like, of the Satan Bug, the missing stuff at least. And the only other source is a music and effects track. But the music is still really good, and the audio quality on this is really good too. But man, yeah, I hope that something happens, because the score for this is, and the thing is too, like, Bob Burns' wife was working at the office of the production company that made the Satan Bug. And like, when they went out of business soon after, they were giving away the stuff, or just throwing things away. And she just happened to get a random box, and the box just happened to have the 2 tapes that we now have. That's it. Like, there's nothing else that's going to turn up. Yeah, it's pretty tragic, but at least, you can appreciate the score in some form. Let's see. Okay, and then Wait Until Dark, which is a really good movie. And Henry Mancini does what Henry Mancini does best, I think, and he's doing stuff that's not like the Pink Panther. People just really forget that he does all these other cool scores. He did the score for Life Force, which is an incredible score for an incredible movie. And I think the main theme for this movie, Scott Walker did like a cover of the song that was written for it. A Man Called Adam, and it is independent production starring Sammy Davis Jr. as a troubled jazz trumpet player. All I know is that this CD kept getting like marked down on, probably because they didn't really sell that much of it. Which is probably good stuff, but it's not what people are, going to Film Score Monthly for. The Bridget Remagen and The Train. Some great artwork for both of these. I haven't, not as familiar with both of those, but again, that's kind of the bread and butter of Film Score Monthly. That, and it seems like these Western scores, which... And then, yeah, look, here's a whole box set of them that they put out, which I had to go and grab the artwork separately. And a lot of these were limited to like 1,500 copies or 2,000. And here's another one where they just were able to get the album masters for these scores. The Silver Chalice, they were able to expand it, it looks like. And this film is very interesting. The production design is I think it's just a very low budget movie, but the production design was done in this really stylized way. That the sets, they look cheap, but they're presented in this really, like a stage kind of flavor, like look. Sex and the Single Girl, The Chapman Report. I don't know either of those. Navajo Joe, everybody, I guess a lot of people know the opening theme, but I know that one at least. Clute, All the President's Men. I don't remember the music much from All the President's Men, but I haven't seen Clute. King's Row, Seawolf, King's Row, everybody knows King's Row. The main theme by Korngold was what inspired John Williams to write the Star Wars theme. Okay, and here's another big release for FSM at the time, was the Superman box set, which collected all the music from all the Christopher Reeves movies. And at the time, it was the most complete version of those scores. I don't know I can't remember if the other scores have gotten... Excuse me. I know the first movie has gotten several releases. They had its own 3-disc release back in 2020 or 2019, but it says Williams' music to Superman has been released on several occasions, most recently on a 2 CD set from Rhino That album, however, was reconstructed using secondary dubbing elements, as the 6-track 35mm music masters were unearthed only afterwards. For this definitive presentation, the entire recording has been painstakingly remixed and remastered from that first-generation source, yielding the best sound quality ever. Disc 1 and 2 present Williams' complete recordings to Superman the movie. Additional alternates and source music are on Disc 8, including alternate versions never before heard, such as a powerful early version of the Kryptonian villain's banishment to the Phantom Zone. It's... I don't know what else. They found some other elements, too, to make the later editions. So the score kept getting, like, gradually more... big, like, improved releases. But this was a big deal, and, like, Lucas Kendall, who, produced all these releases, he was so proud of this release that he made this cover, his avatar on the Film Score Monthly forums. All right, and you got Land of the Pharaohs, Dmitry Tiomkin, which is an interesting looking movie. Okay, here's my ultimate white whale. And one where I could have gotten it at the time and I just passed it up. But Dark of the Sun, it's a really good movie, and it's really intense, and the music is really good and very it's very unique. It is very unique. And this one, I had my chance to get it. It went out of print, and I'm gonna have to find a reasonably priced copy one of these days. Eye of the Devil. It's one of these films. They find these scores, they dig them up. It's a troubled horror film directed by J. Lee Thompson, starring David Niven. As the patriarch of a wine estate in rural France, when the fortunes of the vineyard go bad, Niven is summoned to die in ritualistic sacrifice. The destiny of all male heads of the family. Well, that's actually kind of interesting. And even here, they say FSM is well aware that Eye of the Devil is a film score few people have heard of, let alone want to buy. Please sample the music clips, as McFarland was a major talent whose career was tragically cut short. I said, who did the music? Gary McFarland. Tragically cut short. He scored only one subsequent film, and this is a magnificent work. It's, it is hard too, because getting, they have to tell you, like, take a chance, on this release, you won't regret it. And I feel like, I probably should. And this is also one of the early CDs that I got, because I love the score so much. I'm not such a fan of the movie. It's kind of sophomoric. I'm just gonna there's elements in it where I'm like, this is wonderful, it's fantastic, and then it just like kind of gets just knocked right down to the most base, like eye-rolling kind of humor, just stuff like that. But there are scenes, and the score is fantastic. Like Elmer Bernstein's the scoring for the Tarna segment, especially when she's like the flight score. That's, oh my gosh, that's like one of the most beautiful sequences, I think, in a movie. If I put it on like my list of just scenes that capture your imagination through the music and image alone. And that theme was something he reused from Saturn III too. It even mentions it here. It's a rejected love theme. Why would you reject that piece of music for your movie? Accidental Tourist, another forgotten John Williams score that I know nothing about, but there you have it. Under Fire, Jerry Goldsmith's score, which apparently there was a piece of music that people really wanted from this movie, and this was just a re-release of the LP, which didn't have it. And apparently Jerry Goldsmith was really notorious for like not picking certain things specifically to be on the album. But in the recent re-recording they did of the Chairman score, which is phenomenal, by the way, they did a little bonus track where they recorded some extra stuff from other scores, and one of them was this one cue from this film. Let's see, we've got Wreck of the Merry Deer and Twilight of Honor. The Ice Pirates, which I have not. I've seen clips from it. It's a strange, interesting movie, but it's Bruce Broughton. Another set collection of Western scores. If you just can't get enough of that. I had to find a picture of the MGM soundtrack treasury. So this is all these like MGM scores that they were able to get. Some of them were just LP masters that they had, but yeah, it was and then you got a Shaft box set, or yeah, like a 3-disc set. Shaft scores. More music from Chips. Grand Prix, which is a... Well, let's just face it. You only watch the movie for the racing segments. Honestly, like the dramatic parts are really kind of lame. Especially at the end when they like. I hate these movies especially back then, where they were trying to make some social commentary or just make some comment about like media frenzy and like exploitation of like death and violence. It's like, whatever, like just it's a racing movie. You're gonna do, like, if you're gonna do that, don't do it so ineptly as this movie does it, where it's but the racing segments are great, and I don't remember much of the score actually. I'll have to watch it again though. I actually have the movie, but this is another one that that kind of slipped through my fingers. I was considering getting it and I wasn't really sure. Anti-Mame. There you go. Let's see. John Paul Jones Parish. And they have a Maurice Jarre Concert Works CD, which is very interesting, but another one of the ones that didn't really sell that much. David Rakeson at MGM. I have this set because I was able to get it, like, I found it for kind of cheap at a used place, but it was it's just a bunch of different scores for MGM, but the more I've listened to them, the more I've warmed up to them. Time After Time, which I think has gotten a subsequent release, but this is a fun, very interesting movie where H.G. Wells is like a real, like, H.G. Wells is the character in the time machine. He actually has the time machine, and one of his friends, played by David Warner, and also Malcolm McDowell playing H.G. Wells is so interesting. But then his friend, played by David Warner, is secretly Jack the Ripper, and then he steals the time machine and goes into like 20th century San Francisco, I think. What is it with San Francisco and time travel movies? That's something. And it makes for some very interesting scenarios. Let's see, Americanization, Emily, the Sandpiper Drums of Africa. Now I'm just going off. Twilight Zone, the movie. Haven't seen the actual movie, but it's Jerry Goldsmith, so you can't go wrong. None But the Brave. I actually want to get this now because I was seeing like John Williams, one of his earliest like more dramatic scores, because he was doing a lot of comedies around this time, but he did this one, and it's it, and also from the description, like, they know their audience. It says, if you like Lost in Space television music, there is at least one cue that will make you exclaim, "Danger, Will Robinson." Well, like, I'm sold now, because that's the kind of stuff I want more of, because, yeah, those Lost in Space scores are some of my favorites. Inside Daisy Clover. Sure. Okay. Andre Previn. And I'm trying to get through these at a faster clip, but Dr. Kildare has some Jerry Goldsmith. Harry Suckman. Harry Suckman's kind of underrepresented on CD. I haven't seen a lot of him, but he did some good scores for Sam Fuller. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Oh, Captain Nemo and the Underwater City. This is a really interesting film. So it's a very, like, has a really cool design to it, and there's like this main villain type thing. It's like this giant stingray named Mobula. I think yeah, Verne-inspired family adventure produced at the British studios. It almost feels like a Toho film, like it kind of like with the giant monster and everything, like the setting, you know, kind of in the way Latitude Zero is, but the music is really good. It's by Angela Morley, who did a lot of arrangements for like British pop singers. She did like the music for the Scott Walker's album, like the arrangements for his solo albums initially, and then she also did the music for Watership Down, which I love that score. And this one's very rare now. But I would like to, yeah, get a copy. Thief Who Came to Dinner, Henry Mancini. Kane's 100. Oh yeah, so this is one I had to copy from the website. That's why the Screen Archives shop listing. A TV show with scoring by Jerry Goldsmith. The Split. Which let's see. Oh yeah, you've got Quincy Jones music. The Split. It is Jim Brown stars as McClane, who leads a ragtag group of underworld thugs, including Ernest Borgnine, Jack Klugman, Warren Oates, and Donald Sutherland, in a robbery of the L.A. Coliseum during an NFL game. That sounds pretty good too. Warren Oates. Yeah, I would get that. I would check that out. And I have this CD now. Recently, actually found that last one of my recent trips to the Princeton Record Exchange was Wrath of Khan, James Horner. So yeah, what can you say? What more can you say? You know, whose life is it anyway? Another one that just slipped through the cracks. This one I've thought about getting for a while. It's still available, maybe, but that's a good, like, has a good feeling for the score. It's, you know, it's by John Rubinstein and Tim McIntyre. But I'm a 5-Man Army. Another Ennio Morricone. Okay, I wasn't aware of this one actually had. Yeah, I was just throwing these on here. Then you have the Miklos Rozsa Treasury, which, yeah, they. Where does it say? Does it say what happened? Where they found like more music for the. For the Power. Yeah, well, they found more music for the Power, like the complete score for it, and it's in here. And it's only in here, and it's out of print, and you're out of luck. I think this is still available. Yeah. Yeah, it's oh yeah, I'll just look at the comments. Yeah. Yeah, the same director, yeah, Stanley Donen directed Saturn III. And directed Singin' in the Rain. Stanley Kramer? I always get them mixed up. Yeah, so the Bullet, that's a pretty solid movie. The score is actually good enough that I would probably get that. I think it's still available. And then you have more Westerns collected. So they did release the score for Search for Spock. And it was so exciting for me seeing these two. Like, I want to mention, like, just to see, like, when I wasn't used to a careful, well-curated presentation of a soundtrack on a CD, just to see the track listing on the back, just to know that's, like, there's bonus tracks, there's extra stuff, the alternates, like, and these were very, like, attractively packaged a lot of the time. This is a beautiful score. I don't have it, but this one's really worth seeking out. This was a big one. So this is their 5th box set, and this is Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Ron Jones Project, which was a box set, 14 CDs, 40 complete episode scores by Ron Jones for the first 4 years of Star Trek TNG. plus bonus tracks from Jones' two-part Best of Both Worlds, and 2 Interplay computer games. So, and I'm sure there's like a lot of good music in it. For some reason, my only impression of the music for TNG was just like a lot of like low-key, strained, like tones underlying very like tense, dramatic situations or like moments. But this one was this was pretty popular, this box set. Black Sunday, John Williams score, which I had to check that movie out. But and I have no idea what the score is like, but yeah, these are things too. It's like if you have the means and you like these scores, definitely jump on it, definitely seek it out. Prophecy by Leonard Rosenman. This movie definitely, it's something. Rosenman's action-oriented horror score from 1979, John Frankenheimer, ecologically minded monster movie. That poster is crazy. The story concerns mercury poisoning that is mutating wildlife in a remote area of Maine, resulting in a marauding bear that somewhat resembles a giant baby, a pepperoni pizza, and a herpes. Okay, the way of evaluating these kinds of movies, it's Cincinnati Kid, Lalo Schifrin's film scores, Volume 1. I just crammed a bunch in there. Okay, I'm going to be really mad at myself if I don't get this before it gets sold out. This is still available. And it's a really good score for a really, really good movie that did not get a fair shake on its initial release. But I'm really happy that they actually released this score. Oh yeah, and here we come. This one I'm also kind of miffed that I missed out on, but The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which really has a lot of fun melodies in it. And the movie itself is fantastic. I got the new Blu-ray, the restored Blu-ray from Warner Archive, and I really didn't realize how in what state that film was in. Just how incredible the restoration was on it. And, it just had this reputation of just not a film that probably couldn't be restored, but it did. And they used, technology in a good way, like really involved in that. Marathon Man, Parallax View, music by Michael Small. I kind of want to see these movies. Sometimes the 70s like dour conspiracy like plot movies are entertaining and interesting, especially as a time capsule. Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold. Outland, which was it's a pretty decent movie. It's not great, but you got Jerry Goldsmith kind of doing a musical successor to Alien. And the visuals in this movie are kind of a similar way too. I know a lot of people are like, "Ooh, are they in the same universe?" I guess in a aesthetic way. Butterfield 8. Bronislaw Caper at MGM. All right, Dragon Seed, a really cool title, but not what you think. It's just it's a drama, a war drama. Hunters Are for Killing. Jerry Fielding score. Don't know much about it. Another volume of Chips. TV Omnibus. Now, here's where Film Score Monthly, they were like digging into TV stuff and or just stuff that would never get released otherwise. And that is like an important, part of what they did. But it's, TV Omnibus Volume 1. I don't think they did a Volume 2. But this had a lot of stuff in it that was, yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, Trembling Colors. Hey, yes, my unexpected live stream. I kind of foisted on today. Yeah, yeah. No, the Outland it's a cool experience. Like it's cool to watch and stuff. And yeah, I have to check out Parallax View. I think I can't remember if that or um, that got released by Criterion recently. But anyway, yeah, the TV Omnibus has like stuff that you've never heard of, like John Williams music for a single episode of The 11th Hour, a spin-off of the Kildare, Dr. Kildare, Leonard Rosenman's score for The Phantom of Hollywood, which mines the atonal and dissonant style of The Cobweb, The Deadly Tower, NBC's controversial film about a real-life sniper who killed 13 people at the University of Texas. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is that's just really cool, like that they did that. But it's also like, you know, only certain people who knew about Film Score Monthly would have gotten it, and then anybody later on coming down the line who discovers it, you know, is going to have a hard time if they are aware of it. They're going to have a hard time getting their hands on it. This is great. I mean, this is a re-release of an LP. This isn't expanded, but the music for this show is really good. I was rewatching the first season recently, and there's some pretty solid episodes. But the music, the scoring itself was very good beyond the main theme that people know. Kung Fu and Man in the Wilderness. Jim Helms and Johnny Harris. Both scores have been remastered. Okay, this one, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. I have this. I got this before I saw the movie because the whole story of this film score was so interesting to me, and yeah, and it's 3 discs. This 3-disc set. So if you don't know The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, it was written by Dr. Seuss, and the lyrics were by Dr. Seuss, and like all this stuff, and then is this surreal musical, very strange, sometimes very kind of like dark and eerie, but it's a cult favorite. Its extensive musical score has never been available in any authorized or complete form until now. So Frederick Hollander wrote all this music and whatnot, and all kinds of music for it as well. But the important thing is that The 5,000 Fingers was heavily edited prior to release, with only 6 songs remaining in the picture out of 17 songs. And with this 3 CD release, Film Score Monthly has lovingly recreated the author's complete original conception of the music, a painstaking restoration effort that involved many years of scouring the globe for the best-sounding copies of rare acetate discs, the only surviving music masters from the production. All of Hollander's songs, both ballet sequences in their entirety and most of the underscore, including much that wasn't used in the final film, are presented on the first disc and the beginning of disc 2. I found on archive.org, I think, the original shooting script, and I was able to read through that and then find where the musical numbers would go and where the scoring goes, because it fascinates me. Like the complete version of the original version of the film doesn't exist anymore, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that was jettisoned, and yeah. So you have a whole score. You have all these alternate versions. You have instrumental versions. You have demo, and it's fun music. It's good. And if you know about this movie, if you're interested in it, that's definitely jump on that, because it's still available. I'm looking at it right now on the website. Oh, how about that? Okay. Yeah, but let's see. Hold on a second, check in the comments. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was at Trembling Colors. Yeah, how often score music got discarded. I was mentioning earlier how a bunch of studios basically got rid of their stereo masters and down mixed that onto mono tapes, which were then the only archived version. North Dallas 40. Man, what in the world? Critically and commercially successful adaptation of Peter Gent's novel, which chronicled in thinly fictionalized form the 5 seasons the author spent playing in the National Football League. Okay. Poltergeist, and you had this complete. This is crazy too. Okay, I mentioned earlier, I showed earlier that Film Score Monthly, if they found some extra elements that they didn't have access to for an earlier release, they'll put it onto a soundtrack release, even if it has nothing to do, even thematically, with the CD. So this has like the complete soundtrack for Poltergeist, including the original soundtrack album, which it's important to include those because they'll have different mixes and stuff. But The Prize, which was this earlier 60s thriller that he scored. So there were these album masters recordings that were also included, but not all of them. They found the rest of them and they just put them on this release because why not? Yeah, why not? Originally recorded for MGM LP, 4 of these tracks were included on FSM CD of the complete score, but all 5 have now been remixed for superior sound quality. I guess it's just no time like the present. It's like this is an archival like label. This is the mindset that they have. So, it's better to just get it out. Richard Harris as A Man Called Horse. Leonard Rosenman. Looks mildly unpleasant. Gremlins, and this was the complete score with let's see what we got. This 2 CD set features the premiere release of the complete score, mastered from the original PCM live stereo mixes by Bruce Botnick. Disc 2 features a recreation of the 84 soundtrack album billed as a specially priced 7-cut mini album with 3 pop songs on one side and a 16-minute 12-second suite from Goldsmith's score on side 2. Which is that's fascinating, and that's great that they keep the original album program present as well. Lassie Come Home. Sorry about the formatting on this. I was just pasting stuff in here because from the website. But yeah, they had a Lassie box set of just like as many Lassie movie scores as they could get, I guess. Yeah, how many discs? 5 discs? Yeah. Then they had The Big Bus, which was I saw part of this movie as a kid on TV when I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6. It like kind of weirded me out because they kept cutting the different parts of the bus, and I kept thinking they were like outside the bus because it was like supposed to be this huge vehicle, and this one area was flooding, and this other area was like crashing, and like it was this parody, a spoof of disaster movies, but and it made no sense to me, and it was very strange. A very cool like design thing, but yeah, they're just like David Shire. That's so interesting. He scored that, but another premiere release of the complete score. Rich and Famous, One is a Lonely Number. I have no idea. I Spy, Volume 2, the LPs. Telephone, Hide in Plain Sight. Who did that? Lalo Schifrin. Leonard Rosenman. Okay, this one was This one has some. The score has some good memorable stuff in it. And the movie itself is pretty interesting. So I don't have it. It's not really like one of my most wanted scores, but this is the premiere release of the complete score. excuse me, the Robinson Crusoe on Mars is newly remixed from the original 35mm 3-track scoring masters, preserved in recent years on a 2-inch analog tape by Paramount. Which is good because you never know. Some of these movies, especially when they didn't have a soundtrack released at the time, it's just the condition of the elements is very questionable. Homecoming, Rascals and Robbers. These are, and one, Jerry Goldsmith and James Horner. It was a television movie which led to The Waltons. Interesting. More Than a Miracle. Oh, Piero Piccioni. I love Piccioni. Can't go wrong with him. Testament. James Horner. I don't know what that is. Comedians. Yeah, I'm sure it's comedic. A lot of reiterating again, a lot of these movies are just ones that fell by the wayside. Oh yeah, and then Trembling Colors says, Hans Zimmer's fallen off in terms of quality. Yeah, no, totally. His 80s and 90s stuff is great. He just kind of became a hack and just handed off a lot of work to other people. My favorite score of his is Muppet Treasure Island. Let's see, The Belle of New York. Pretty Maids All in a Row. Oh yeah, the premise of this movie is kind of crazy, especially the casting. Black comedy set in a California high school at the height of the sexual revolution concerns a popular guidance counselor and football coach played by Rock Hudson, who has a habit of sleeping with and possibly murdering his nubile young students. It's a crazy premise. But Lalo Schifrin, of course, does the music for that. And again, you've got a lot of music not heard in the film. I mean, who's seen that film? I don't know. But here's something. Here's a great score, Days of Heaven. Which 2-disc set, which the way scoring goes for Ennio Morricone often is doesn't seem like it's always done to picture, or there might be stuff laid down and then different variations of it are made. So in an unusual move, Morricone gave Terrence Malick permission to move cues around, the end result being that much of the music was relocated to different parts of the film than those for which it was composed. Still further differences exist between the music as heard in the film as it was presented on the soundtrack LP issued by Pacific Arts Records and taped. Because of these differences, this 2-CD set of Morricone's music features 3 programs, all newly remastered from the half-inch 3 and 4-track mixes created in Rome, with a few redone in Los Angeles. So it's a pretty comprehensive one. It's a good, it's a beautiful score to get lost in, really. The Great Santini. Elmer Bernstein. Oh yeah, Space Children, Colossus of New York. Music by Van Cleve. It's always great too. Some of these 50s science fiction movies have been getting more releases recently. If you check, there's this one label that's been doing releases of 50 science fiction movies. Santa Claus Conquers the Martian got a release recently. How incredible is that? It's speaking of you're asking a film composer I thought had fallen off. Earlier I was mentioning Maurice Jarre. I think he peaked kind of in the 60s, more like the Lawrence of Arabia, because felt like he kept repeating himself, and then later on just kind of resorted to a lot of synth stuff. His orchestral stuff wasn't that interesting, but I don't know, he did a bunch of scores, so there might be some other better stuff. And the Lion King, if you're mentioning Hans Zimmer again, the Lion King score did, he go back to that and you're like, wow, this guy actually knows like orchestration there. Like Night Watch, Killer by Night, two TV scores by John Williams, it looks like. Frantic. This is a pretty decent movie I saw years ago. It's just like Harrison Ford, his wife gets kidnapped in Paris, and then he's like, so he's trying to like get help. He doesn't speak French, and he's basically gets help from this like girl, and she's involved in some weird way because but there's it's another entry in the scene of Harrison Ford like altering his persona and his like voice in order to like deceive someone or trick someone in some way. But he does that like all the time in like, he did it in Blade Runner, he did that in like Last Crusade. Yeah, it's I just noticed that's a thing he did. But the Morricone score for this is really nice. Oh yeah, so we're nearing the end of Film Score Monthly. We're almost there. This was huge, and I do have the 2-disc Rhino release of this Ben-Hur, which is basically all the music. But there was other stuff. There was other stuff that they had to put out, and that's fine. So it's every film cue, every outtake, every alternate, every additional take preserved by the studio, mastered from original 6-track recordings, augmented by rare material from the Miklos Roja collection at Syracuse University. Roja's mammoth and colorfully orchestrated score, over 2 hours long. Okay, what is that? This 1 and 2. Yeah. Devoted the full score with outtakes. Discs 3 and 4 present alternates from Acts 1 and 2 in film order. Disc 5 features still more alternates and bonus tracks, including a do-over of a Quo Vadis cue released first in Film Score Monthly's Miklos Roja Treasury. Again, just look that up on eBay or Discogs, like, and then the rest are like re-recordings of LPs of stuff. So it's like the most, and then 20,000 words of text in liner notes, only 4,000 of which appear in the booklet because they started putting the liner note, most of them online. You can still find it on the website now, at least. Yeah, you can still find the, shoot, hold on. Yeah, you can still find them on the website, the online liner notes, but yeah, okay. This one was crazy for me. Because at the time I was really getting into Bernard Herrmann, but I did not know about this score, and it still blows my mind that this happened, but it's a crazy thing. I'm glad it existed, and yeah, Herrmann doing a 1970s like horror exploitation. Not really horror, not exploitation, but yeah, you would not have expected him to do it, but hey, he did a lot of interesting stuff. He's using a was it? Yeah, he used a Moog on it. A Moog, yeah. Yeah, it was basically, yeah, this like a mutant killer baby. Let's see, Friends of Eddie Coyle, 3 Days of the Condor. Which, let's see, Dave Grusin. Okay. I'm not really familiar with Dave Grusin stuff. John Barry, Body Heat. And some of these descriptions I had to copy from the Screen Archives listing because the Film Score Monthly website didn't even have this like record of their own CD on there. So now this is when Film Score Monthly actually got to do a proper expanded release of the John Barry King Kong score, which is really great. The score itself, yeah. So basically it says FSM released the 76 Reprise Records album Master of King Kong in 2005 when no additional material was available. But now with the cooperation of Paramount Pictures, we are able to premiere John Barry's complete score newly mixed and mastered from the 2-inch, 24, and 16-track masters on the first disc and this 2-CD deluxe edition. And then they have the album master on the second disc and alternates and stuff. I really love the music they play when Kong's being like presented, that like big band kind of disco stuff. And then this is the last Film Score Monthly release proper, the Wild Bunch. End of the line edition, it says. So, yeah, so this is... CD was produced by Nick Redman for Warner Home Video's deluxe laserdisc of The Wild Bunch in 1997. Unlike past albums of Jerry Fielding's classic score, a mono restoration from Screen Archives, and a reissue of the LP on CD from Japan. This was mastered from the original multi-track elements in the Warner vaults and is in terrific stereo sound, over 75 minutes of music. This CD is the best ever presentation of this landmark score. So, yeah, if you, they went out properly with that. But Lucas Kendall, who produced Film Score Monthly, he, had aspirations of making films and stuff, and he did. I think he did one other, but then he did a short film called Skyfighter, and he later also released the score written for it as a subsequent Film Score Monthly CD, but it's not really it's fine short film. It's really not great. It's okay. The music is fine. It's sort of just, yeah. It's interesting to see that he was putting his own film in a score for his own film into the collection, but I don't think it's that interesting. So then later, last year, there's a Kickstarter to fund this revamp of the website and also a book on the history of Film Score Monthly. And then also they were having an extra release, a new release, kind of under the Retrograde Records label, which was originally like in tandem with Film Score Monthly. So that the Filmation music of Ray Ellis. So 79-minute collection of monaural music from the 70s and 80s Filmation projects, including Star Trek, the animated series, the 79 Flash Gordon, live action Jason of Star Command, Shazam, and ISIS, and the animated 1982 Gilligan's Planet and 1979 Mighty Mouse. Rare release for the highly esteemed composer, arranger Ray Ellis, who wrote most of the music under pseudonyms, as explained in the new liner notes by Jeff Bond. And Jeff Bond, if you don't know he's just like the liner note writer extraordinaire. He wrote this giant 2-volume tome about Jerry Goldsmith that was kickstarted, and then this whole crazy thing that could be a whole other video in itself. This whole they got hundreds of thousands of dollars, just over $100,000, way beyond their goal. And essentially there were things behind the scenes going on. The guy who ran the Kickstarter basically there were things he had produced while the book should have been getting produced that made it suspicious about where the funds had gone. And then he basically had to come out and say it doesn't have the money, or and everybody who was lucky enough to get the PDFs I got the PDFs. So this great Jerry Goldsmith companion that covers his entire career in detail with a lot of new information, written by Jeff Bond, who has been writing liner notes as long as I've been into film scores. this big effort of his just kind of like never got to see physical release. So that was a huge tremor in the film score world recently, but not even a blip anywhere else. But yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the Film Score Monthly Odyssey. I can't believe, we're running over 3 hours and 11 minutes now. And let me go through some of the comments. Black Rain. It's weird. Composers reuse stuff a ton. James Horner reuses so much of his 48-hour score in a score for Commando. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's something, you're just going to find that they do that sometimes to strap for time, or they, but yeah, the Friends of Eddie Coyle, 3 Days of Condor are great. Body Heat scores a great film noir scoring. Yeah, I'll check those out. Excellent idea for a record label. Too bad it's not still going. Yeah, they kicked things off for they weren't the first to do stuff like this, but their approach was different. And there was Entrada before them and Varese Sarabande. And then there's La La Land Records. There's Quartet. There's all these other labels that sprung up around them. And so, they were the one of the forerunners. And I just loved the way they did things. And you said, I love a collection of Johnny Quest score. Well, they did. La La Land Records released a 2 CD set of all the Johnny Quest music. I have it. It's great. So, I don't know if it's still available though. So, but I'm pretty sure more of it's might be on YouTube. But yeah, no. Well, it's quite something. Yeah, it was. Thank you. This was fun going through it. It's kind of a spur of the moment thing, but I had a lot of stuff to talk about. So, all right, I'm gonna pop off, and thank you very much for watching, whoever you did, and hopefully this video will be up still, so it'll be a document of for people to go through. All right, well, thank you for watching, and good night, everyone.